Day 1 of the Ebor Festival belonged to Gaiath. Day 2 belonged to Love. Who will be the star of Day 3? Will it be the brilliant Batash, or can Art Power dethrone the king of the 5 furlong trip? Welcome along to Racing Post Live. I'm Bruce Millington, and I'm delighted to be in the company of Paul Kealy from the Racing Post, and also Betfair's Neil Hubbard, for 2.5 hours of fast, furious, frantic and hopefully fun action from the Knavesmire 5 races. The highlight is, as we say, the 3:15. It's the Coolmore Nunthorpe. Batash bidding to win it again. Art Power, the young pretender, cannot wait. Really, really looking forward to this. Thank you for your company. We want to know all through the show what you think, so please post your comments and we will read plenty of those out throughout the afternoon. First of all, though, Keels, we'll find out what sort of form you're in. You were on the show on Wednesday and drew a blank, but you're back to form. You're back in among the winners yesterday, weren't you?
Yeah, Wednesday I drew a blank. Actually, about 3 runners up on Wednesday. Got the winner on the board yesterday with Gold Wand. Still back to. There was a couple of horses.
Didn't she?
She did drift. There was a fair bit of money for. I think it was a award scheme of William Haggis's, and that was because she'd been second to Alpinista, who was second to Love just before. So the money sort of came flooding for her, which got me a better price. I was quite pleased about. I did, there was a couple of horses that were on my radar for tipping, and I went off them, and they both won, which was rather annoying. Miss Amulet and Amber Storm. But I feel like I'm proper knocking on the door now, so hopefully we'll kick it open.
Excellent. And Neil, we've had Barry on the show first couple of days. You've taken over the baton. Welcome back to Racing Post Live. What have you made of the action so far? 2 fascinating days and only 2 winning favourites out of 14.
Yeah, really enjoyable. Been a bit quiet on the punting front for me, but in terms of just as a spectator, Gaiath was awesome on Wednesday. Really enjoyed him. And then Love carried all before her again yesterday, and that sets up a really, really intriguing arc later in the year. So, really good quality racing, which is what we've come to expect at this meeting, really.
Absolutely. And Kills, on the subject of the arc, you think the market's all wrong, don't you?
Well, yeah, I don't think it makes any sense. You know what I mean? If Gaiath hadn't blown out last year in the arc, he'd be favourite, wouldn't he? I mean, he's run career best virtually every time this season. He ran to a race post rating of 131. When winning on Wednesday. That I don't think the handicap has put up the mark for Love, but that will be at least £10 superior to what Love did on Wednesday. It just will. And he's the real deal. I mean, I think the benchmark for brilliance in a horse is a 130, and he's up there. The way I look back, and I think in the last dozen or so years, only 9 other horses have run to that level, 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles on good ground or quicker, and only 4 of those ran in the arc. 3 of them won it. The other one went off 11 to 10 favourite. That was authorised. He got beat, sank without trace. But I mean, Gaiath, on form, he's going to go into the race as the best horse in the world, and he's not even second favourite, let alone favourite. That makes sense to me. He should be favourite as far as I'm concerned.
OK, excellent. Right then, let's kick off with race 1 of 5. It's off in 10 minutes' time. And, we've got a social comment first, though. Steo Moino, best of luck, everybody. Let's get some winners. Well said, Steo. Come on, let's do it. Let's get some winners. And Andre Raubenheimer says, yes, he's back. Now, he's had to clarify it meant Keels. Come on, Andre, Neil's back as well. What about a nice big return for Neil? But anyway, Andre's delighted Keels is on the show. Let's hope Keels repays his faith in him with a few winners. OK, first race, like I say, 9 minutes away, so plenty of time to get your bets on. It's the Sky Bet Handicap. It's a Class 2 and it's over 1.5 miles. We've got a strong favourite. Before we discuss him, I just do want to quickly get a word, Kills, from you on Jim Crowley, because he's got 6 rides, all for Sheikh Hamdan, not just Batash, but 5 others today. And Barry touched upon it yesterday, said that if they start blazing in those blue and white colours, there could be a bit of a kind of Frankie-style roll-up going on. Have you had a specific look at these to see whether that's a realistic danger?
I mean, I'm not the sort of person to do it myself, but one of my friends, he calls them his colours. You know what I mean? The Hamdan Al Maktoum colours, and he loves Jim Crowley, so he backs virtually every one. You know what I mean? And he will do throughout the day. So yeah, he's got Minzal, who's obviously favourite for the Jim Crack. Now it's quite interesting because Minzal was 4th in an Ascot Maiden, first time up, and the horse that was 3rd went off at a bigger price to win a handicap, the nursery handicap yesterday, of a mark of 83. Yet Minzal is suddenly favourite for the Group 2 Gimcrack. Doesn't quite make an awful lot of sense to me. I know he won his own maiden next time very well, but he's actually got a lot to prove on the book. Batash, we obviously know if he's in form, he'll win. No matter how good Art Power is it's going to be very unusual to have any two horses anywhere near the same level that Batash is. So, I mean, if Batash is on form, he's blown out twice in this race before, though, obviously. We go further down. We've got a maiden now. Tall Lead is second favourite. There is a maiden. Naval Crown has considerably the best form in the race. But Tall Lead has only run the once, whereas Naval Crown has won twice, so you could easily see that.
So how many winners could you see him having out of those?
I would say, I'd say he could easily have two. I think you're pushing it three, to be honest.
Okay,
it's tough. It's tough racing.
Now then, we need to remind everyone that all week we're trying to win some money for the Injured Jockeys Fund, and Barry, I think, swelled their coffers by about £350 yesterday. So all afternoon, Neil will be putting some bets on, with all proceeds going to that wonderful charity. Should we get your bet on for the first, Neil? Tell us who you... Well, I'll tell you what, let's have a quick look at the market first, then tell us who you fancy, and then tell us how you're going to back him, because, of course, it's so many different ways of backing and laying on the exchange.
Yeah, you sort of touched on it before. The market's actually quite positive about the favourite here. So last night I took the prices and he was around 2-1, but there's been plenty of money for him now. So he's into 2.44, which equates to around 7-5 in fractional terms. Restorer next at 8s.
It's no good saying it equates to 7-5 in fractional terms. I have to know what 7-5. That's not a fractional I've got.
Exactly. Yeah, I suppose I should have been a bit more. I should have gone either side to a bit
very
more,
modern fractional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a fair point. Alphatic then at 9-4, Dark Jedi 9.6, and then my fancy King's Caper at 10.5. I thought this thing ran really well at Goodwood last time. It was only fifth at Goodwood last time, but if you look back at the weight he carried that day, he was conceding tons of weight to everything that was in that field. And he sort of gets his own back this time, because 3-year-olds get an absolute chunk of weight for age in this contest. So stablemate of the favourite, but I'm more than willing to side with King's Caper. I do respect the favourite, absolutely, and because of that, I'm going to back King's Caper win and place, but I'm going to weight it a little bit more to the place part, because of almost a little bit more insurance against the favourite, really. So,
because Barry yesterday, he sussed one early on, massive price. I think it was about 34, and he backed it place only. And at one point, it got very short and looked like it was going to win. So it's always worth just having a little bit. You've got to go for glory there, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, if we take our pot of money of, say, 50 quid for this opening race, I'm going to back King's Caper for a tenner just in the win market, so £10 at 10-1. And then, as you sort of touched on, the amount of markets that you've got on the exchange. So there's, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 different ways to get involved here. But in the place market, the traditional place market, and by that I mean 3 places, King's Caper is 2.78, which is 9-5, which is another one of the slightly more modern fractions, perhaps. I'll have the 40 quid on the place there. So in effect, we've placed a each way bet, really, a 25, well, like a £50 total stake each way, but we've just weighted it in win and place.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have that flexibility. Just a quick one on fractional versus decimal. Kills, if everyone said, right, we're passing a law, there's no fractional odds, it's all decimal now, would you mind?
Wouldn't make any difference to me in the slightest.
Do you think decimally these days?
No, not really. I probably still think fractionally, but it wouldn't bother me.
Okay, yeah. It's just easier to work out decimal.
I think if you sat down now and you were to invent betting from scratch, you'd do it in decimals.
You would.
You wouldn't do it in fractions.
And I think
a
most
lot
young punters...
a lot of the older people, if they see 8 on a Betfair Exchange, they think it's 8-1.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's if they've got through life understanding the basics that you need to get through to that age,
course,
you can certainly understand if someone says 8 in decimal, it means 7-1. Oh, sorry, it's not that difficult, is it?
I also think, in some ways, bizarrely, that some sports are better suited to different ways as well. Sort of like racing, I actually think in fractions, but if you get involved in, say, NFL or something, or even like football, I tend to think in decimals, which is weird, but I guess that's just the way we've sort of been brought up, really.
Anyway, Kills, can Neil have your thunder back, please? Because you've stolen it.
Yeah, stolen my thunder with King's Caper. Yeah, no, I like King's Caper. If you look at that race at Goodwood, he's not really a horse with push-button acceleration. He tends to take a while to get wound up, and he was just behind a wall of horses and just never got out. And then he was staying on at the death. He was beat a fair way, but time before, he was second in the Italian Derby. He actually picks up 119 grand for that, and it's 19 grand to the winner today. But he ran really well. He got beaten in nose, ridden by Frankie Dettori that day. Ryan Moore was down to ride him, but the weights went up. He jumped as Zabeel champion. You can understand him doing that. And he was second in that good 1.25 mile race for 3-year-olds at Goodwood, staying on again at the end. He's a half brother to Dame Mayo, who won a 1.5 mile soft ground Group 2 earlier on this season for Ebor. So, he's going to appreciate the trip. He is very much the one to beat. But I like the angle. This is, he's not a very big horse, King's Caper, I don't think, and he's getting to carry a little bit less weight than normal because of the weight for age. And I think he's got a shout. And we've got a second favourite in here, Restorer, who was finished 14th and 16th in 2 previous runs at York. He ran well at Chester last time, but he always runs well at Chester. So he's now coming to a track that he doesn't like. I think the each-way angle is fine, because I don't think many of those are in that great a form or that well handicapped.
The two boys both fancy King's Caper. I better give you a quick word on what my racing fancy. They've gone for a win treble. Zabeel champion, the favourite here in the 145. Enbehar in the 215 and Batash in the 315. So not the most adventurous treble, but they do have some very exotic fancies later on, which I'll be telling you about. And talking of exotic fancies, I've gone for it with Byron Flyer here, Kills.
Oh, the rag.
Do you rate that tip?
Absolute rag.
Only £3 off top RPR.
Yeah.
Fit. Trained by Ian Williams, who I'm always a big fan of. I just think that this thing's got to a very, very big price. It actually got much bigger on Betfair. I've just noticed it's come in 34. Nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that I fancy it. But, I think we've seen this week, Kills, that you can go for it at a half-decent price, can't you? And, with each way here, I just thought that Byron Flow was a big old price.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. And one of the reasons that is I hate putting people off big price winners, because I've done it in the past. I said, well, what on earth makes you fancy that sort of thing? And it's stupid, really. You don't need that egg in your face. And if you do talk someone out of something at a big price, you can feel a bit daft. Now, he has got...
But notwithstanding that, you do think it's a ridiculous tip.
Well, yeah, I think he's got no chance whatsoever. No. I mean, he has got some good back form to his name. And from less than a year ago, he ran to a race post rating of 108 when he ran at Newmarket last summer. So, he's running off 101 now. So he's definitely got those, if he comes back to that sort of form. He has been getting beaten over hurdles. He was 4 for 12 at Southwell last time. So he's got to be a lot better than that. But he's a talented horse at his best. Thank
you very much, Kills. Let's find out what you fancy out there. Thomas Jones says Zabeel is a good thing, Zabeel champion, who of course was, if you're a Racing Post Live fan, you will remember the legendary moment when John Canoe collared Zabeel champion at Goodwood to land Dave Orton's massive touch, and that's why Dave's not here. He's on some sun-kissed isle on a yacht surrounded by a bevy of beauties, and fair play to him. He won so much money that day. Zabeel champion, let's talk about the favourite, Kills. Good value, bad value, or just about right?
Probably a little bit shorter than I expected to be. Obviously, there's been a couple of non-runners, although Dash of Spice was a non-runner yesterday. Toronto was a 3-year-old who's an outsider. So, he's shortened up. Everyone loves a favourite. And I'll tell you what, we get these sort of social questions and tips from people coming in. I don't think in the 3 days I've done this yet, I've yet to see anybody tip anything other than a favourite.
Yes.
Come on, be a bit more adventurous, people. Go for something. That's what I say.
Having said, I know being on the favourites hasn't paid dividends so far at York, but last night at Chester, 8 out of the 9 jollies won. I think if the other one had won, it would have brought the bookies to their knees. Neil, Zabeel champion, what do you make of him? And he's just on the drift a little, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 2.5 on exchange. So that's 6 to 4. So that's more traditional fractional terms. That's a proper one, isn't it? Didn't do anything wrong at Goodwood last time. When I looked at this race, I had him down as being around 2 to 1. So for me, he's probably a little bit too short now. Anything around that sort of 2 to 1, 9 to 4, which he opened up at, I think was totally fair price for him. He's just a little bit short for me now. But he's got an obvious chance. He's got Ryan Moore on board. There wouldn't appear to be any excuses for him with ground or anything like that. So a bit like not wanting to put you off a big price for Byron Fly. You can't really argue with anyone siding with Zabeel champion, really.
OK, and talking on the ground, as the last couple prepare to go in, Kills, I think it's just again remaining slightly on the soft side of good, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised to see some quicker times today, though, because it's supposed to be extremely windy. The wind's blowing up the straight, and it's got to dry out of at some point.
Well, everyone's getting very excited, obviously, about what time Batash does. We'll do that soon. But meanwhile, the last one is in for our first race, the 145, the Sky Bet handicap, over 1.5 miles. I'll call the action. Kills will chip in with horses he thinks are going well or badly. And Neil will keep you up to date with all the news. Not very well away was Jim Crowley on Alphantic. But apart from that, they're into their stride okay. We've got the King Power colours of... Sorry, it's the Jahir Abdullah colours of Zabil Champ. Very prominent. Neil, what's that done to the market?
Yeah, straight into 5-4, so just hardened up even more at the top of the market there. So really, really strong favourite now.
You know, it makes the running anyway. I mean, people know, you know, people ought to know that. You see what I said about King's Caper not exactly being very big. So hopefully carrying a little bit less weight against older horses will... So we look at the size of Zabil Champion by comparison.
He's tiny, isn't
Actually,
he?
you're right. He is big, isn't he?
Although, Bruce, you say they're all the same size.
No, I can actually see that. For the first time ever, I can see that. I'll tell you what I can't see is Byron Flyer. Has there been a colour change there?
No. He's hidden behind Dark Jedi. What
of course.
Fantastic commentator you are.
I'm terrible at it. Go on then, I'll take it away.
No, I'm about to be useless.
Isn't that on to victory?
Actually, that's on to victory. Byron Flyer is actually in second.
Yeah, exactly. Obscured by the leader.
There you go.
He's so big that he's hiding my horse. Right then.
Right, we better let Neil do it then.
Right, they're going down the far side. Zabil Champion's back out to the price he was at the start, around about 2.4. The obscured Byron Flyer, who's going to win this, he's out to 50. That's a ridiculous price. King's Caper's keeping tabs on the leader in third, and then we've got the old grey in fourth, who is Restorer, then Dark Jedi, and then on to Victory. Alphartic has made a couple of places up. And out the back we have Koeman, and at the very rear of the field we've got
Entangle.
Entangle. Okay, right then, what's happening with the market then?
King's Caper's the one that's really popular now.
Well. I mean, with the favourite in front, you don't actually want to be sitting miles off, do you? I think if the favourite's making
Dark Jedi's all over them. I think my one's Dark really Jedi's prominent, Byron. He's just getting chased along, isn't he?
You're game, aren't you?
Yeah, Restorer's coming there as well. He's going well.
Dark Jedi odds on.
Who's favourite now? Dark Jedi
odds on.
King's Caper is finding.
Yeah, he's in between them. So there's about a furlong and a half to go. No, he's given way now, I think. It's looking good for Dark Jedi, isn't it? Dark Jedi on to Victory. Alan King's coming there as well. And here comes Alphartic. Alphartic's fav now, is he?
Odds on, yeah.
Yeah, Alphartic looks like he's got this. Those old blinkers might be a bit of a scare, though.
He's on to Victory getting there.
On to Victory's not going to get there. No, he's not going to get there. It's going to be Alphartic. Kicking off potentially the Sheikh Hamdan Jim Crowley six-timer. It's off and running. Alphartic wins it. Dark Jedi second. Escape to Victory, on to Victory even his third. Favourite nowhere. Yet another favourite bites the dust. And while it is way too early to get too worried, the first dark clouds on the bookies' horizon, if you've had that Jim Crowley six-timer, are beginning to loom. Interesting stuff. What was the tail of the market there, please, Neil?
Yeah, so Zabil Champion hit 2.16, so
that
fairly
was quite
short.
early on that.
Yeah,
actually,
that
wasn't
was. Dark Jedi 1.5 in running. Alphartic hit a high of 90.
Wow.
And then I think that was about it, really. What King's Caper?
Did
King's Caper
4.8.
I'm just looking now. 3, so 2-1. I think actually, like watching that there, King's Caper, like we were talking about what a small horse he was, and I don't know whether he just got perhaps worried out of it.
Yeah, he might have done. He was a little bit sort of, did get a little bit squeezed, but I mean, at the end of the day, neither of the 3-year-olds were anywhere near good enough, were they?
No.
I suppose you could say, well, look, you've got these 3-year-old handicappers, and the top 3-year-olds aren't all that good, so maybe the 3-year-old handicappers aren't either. Yeah. But they went backwards really quickly. Did they go too hard?
It didn't look a furious pace, did it?
Alphartic was the one that was dropped out, wasn't it? You had a slow start.
By the way, Kills, I was desperate to mention on to Victory beforehand, because it's never been a flat race with an Alan King horse that you haven't said you fancied it. So that was a negative in itself. But he's run all right for third, isn't he?
He's run all right for third at a big price, yeah. I mean, Alan King is a really good trainer of flat horses.
All down that far side, obviously, which seems to be the old golden highway. No one's coming off that rail, are they?
Nobody wants to be on the stand side now, and it did look like that yesterday, so maybe they'll stay there. Obviously, the track is like 6 yards out, so they might have a bit of fresher ground as well.
So 15-2 shot, Alphartic wins the opener from 17-2 chance, Dark Jedi, and then 18-1. Outsider on to Victory was third. I think fourth was Entangling. The favourite, Zabil Champion, only finished sixth. So it's 2 from 15 for the Jollies at the Ebor Festival so far. And like I say, I think it's really interesting this today, you know, Jim Crowley, because punters do latch onto these kills, don't they? I know it's not for you, but for a lot of people, they you know, I think for us who work in the industry, we kind of view each race dispassionately. They're a separate contest. But for a lot of people, a lot of small recreational punters, they look at a meeting and say, oh, I like Crowley, look at what he's got here. I'll do that in a Super Yankee or a Lucky 31 or a Lucky 63. There'll be a liability totting up here, won't there, if he keeps winning?
If he bangs in the next one, you have to think you had a 15-2 winner and a 2-1 winner. It suddenly gets.
He's on the Fav next, isn't he?
He's just about back into Fav as well now.
It's a combination of the silks, though. What you said as well, though, Paul, in terms of like the well-known silks,
the
as
iconic
well.
silks.
Yeah, aren't they? Exactly.
They,
so people will have a story or some sort of affection for those silks as well, and once you factor all of that in as well.
Kills, if you look at the form figures, I mean, he's obviously not run this season, Alfati. When you were studying the race up, did he ever come onto your radar as a potential winner?
you have to look at every horse, don't you? But I mean,
so what was your thought process when you were assessing him?
His thought process was, wow, this is a hard horse to assess. He's got, he's got one. He had one run in his name out of 3, which gave him his mark of 94, and that was when finishing 5th of 6 in the classic trial at Sandown. So the other 2 runs he ran to in the 70s, and he finished last of 7 in a listed race at Goodwood in May 2019. Hasn't been seen since.
Let me ask you another question then, which might be a slightly odd one, but when you go with a tip, you've actually got to justify it in print, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've actually got to make a case for it. Do you ever get a situation where you say, do you know what, I fancy that, but I can't particularly explain why? It's just a slightly bigger price than it should, or
I don't tip them
because you can't make the case.
No, I like to feel that you have to justify it. Sometimes I think, that might run well today, but when I look at it, I think I can't justify it other than I've got that feeling, and I don't think that's right. I think you've got to be able to justify it if you're going to put it in print. You can do whatever you like with your own punting, of course, but if you're advising somebody to have a bet, you ought to have a serious thought process behind it, surely.
But I guess so. But I mean, equally, presumably, sometimes the price is just too big, given what you know of the form. Even if the form is a bit
but then you
sporadic.
Then you can make that case, can't you? You can say, look, the price against what he's done here might not have done it lately, but at least he has done it before, sort of thing. But sometimes there'll be ones where you think, well, I can't tip this at all, but I'm going to have a couple of quid anyway.
Yeah, I think the one with that winner there, let's say he was, 16-1 or something, then you can make a case of, they've kept him in training, they've gelded him, he did show promise, he ran in a listed race. There's things there then that the price perhaps allows you to take a flyer on to an extent. But if he's trading at like 7-8-1, those things then all of a sudden are just like, well, yeah.
And then you read Angus Gold, racing manager to own a Hamdan Motor team. He's had loads of problems and is a big, lazy horse. He's hard to get 100% fit at home. He'll need the run. And then you don't back him, do you?
Tail of the time, 5.6 seconds over standard. What does that tell you,
Over standard? I don't.
Would it be more to do with the fact that they didn't go a frenetic early gallop than that all of a sudden the going's really bad?
They might have gone hard enough. I mean, you've got to remember, for all the it's the wind's flying down the straight. It's in their faces.
It's in their faces early on, isn't it?
Starting early on. They might not have gone harder, but they might have gone too hard, and that's why they finished. So that's why the front ones went and the pace collapsed, and it's led to not a very good time. We'll have to wait and see. The thought was from some that it would still be riding dead today, even though it has been dry. That could be what it is.
I suppose as well, the bits of soft that are on the track are on that, coming out the back straight on that bend.
Yeah,
so you've come from running into a headwind onto the softest ground as well. So, I mean, time will tell, won't it? But, it's difficult with the wind because it is forecast to blow a lot, isn't it? So, and get quite strong. So, are we saying then that it's behind them on the home straight? Is that the general consensus?
So.
Yes, behind them.
And today's the windiest day, isn't it? I mean, if you're camping down in the West Country, you need all the extra tent pegs you can find. But it's not meant to be quite so bad on the east of the country, but it's still pretty gusty.
But the wind is south-southwesterly, and York Strait points directly north. Basically.
Yeah. So it's coming across them a little, is it?
Yeah, but across and behind.
So many factors to consider these days, isn't there? Eh? Whatever next. Okay, well, that was an interesting one, and I think, the jury is out really in terms of just how slow the ground is. We'll have to see. But one thing that, obviously, the key issue with time today is how fast Batash is going to cover these 5 furlongs, isn't it? Does that excite you, that particular thing? I mean, there's going to be a great big clock there and everyone's going to be looking at it. I must admit, I can't... It's not like, a 4-minute mile or a 10-second 100 metres. I will be mildly interested, but to me, if I'm a Batash fan and he just obliterates the field, that's good enough for me. I'm not that fussed what the actual time is, because I don't know what a fast 5 furlong at York is.
Yeah, I know, but we don't know most people don't know what a fast time anywhere is, because we've just not been used to doing it. The thing is with horse racing, there's betting on it. Like, you know what I mean? And when it comes to athletics, I mean, you can bet on it now, but they never used to be. It's just how fast, what time have they run?
Yeah, but also it was standard tracks. It was standardly configured oval 400-metre tracks. It means something, doesn't it? And personal bests and everything drive it on. It's not like that in horse racing.
Yeah, but I think with York in particular, I mean, it was a 30-year course record that Batash broke last year as well. It had been around for a long, long while. Dejour, 1991, I think. So he broke that in 2019. There's lots of talk about will he do it this time now. There's been rain. I mean, there might be wind behind him. It would probably be an illegal time in athletics, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Wind assisted, they used to call it, didn't they? Yeah.
So, we'll have to wait and see. But if it is riding dead, he's got no chance. I mean, there were quotes earlier in the week. I think were you going 7-2 or something
like that, yeah.
break it. Once the rain came, I mean, he's got no chance.
No. Okay. Yeah. Look, like I say, I'm not. Are you fussed about it now?
I think it's just probably not, but only because again, it's like this in a way. This fractional decimal things. We're not used to it. We're not used to times. I mean, if you look at every sport that's out there that pitches a head-to-head in a race, time is involved. Be it Formula One, be it athletics, be it equestrianism, even
swimming.
Yeah, everything has time. Everything that's a race has time, except for horse racing. So I mean, like if you had up there course record on every race. And then it just said over under, and then it flashes up course record. All of a sudden, it would be more interesting, but we're just not used to it, are we?
But again, 50-metre swimming pool is a 50-metre swimming pool with water in it, indoors. It's the same all the time.
Yeah,
400-metre athletic track.
5 furlong course record or 10 furlong course record is still a thing at York.
Yeah, but again, it's not really a hallmark of excellence, because you get some very peculiar situations where the ground and the wind and the pace conspire to make a fairly not top-ranked horse do a brilliant time. So
that's interesting. I don't know if that's interesting in itself, though. If you're there watching ITV and it's just a normal, Class 3 handicap over a mile at Sandown and something breaks the course record. I don't know if that in effect is... Like, if you're... Like, I know we're racing people, but if you're like a casual observer and you're watching it, I don't know if that's an interesting thing that you're like, Christ, that horse is... has just achieved something there that is difficult to otherwise quantify if you're just watching a normal race and it wins by a length.
My view on it is that the other sports have to obsess about time because they haven't really got the betting angle. That racing's fascination is all about the betting, and that takes much more precedent than the time itself. I think if time was that important, we would have introduced it by now. Racing's been going long enough. I know that there's a lot of people, and when I was editor, there were a lot of people saying, look, we need to start embracing time more, and I never got... And it doesn't matter what I think. I always used to think, well, what do our readers want? What's my perception of what the Racing Post readers want? And I never got that impression. And it wasn't because I didn't ask them. There are ways and means of finding these things out. I just don't think the average punter is that obsessed with time. And I think that in actual fact what's happened recently is you've got a small group of people on Twitter who shout very loud about it, and that can give the impression that everyone's madly into time.
I think that's the thing in racing. There is a lot of... opinions or issues in racing whereby the vocal minority sort of comes to the fore a little bit.
That's a mirror of the world, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess,
really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they have got a point. It isn't there, and why isn't it there? And why can't it be there? It can't be that hard. Like, I've got more interested in time as time has gone on. Like, But I still, it still isn't there for most people. So give them the choice.
It's also very hard, don't forget, because you've got 3-mile jumps races that take place, and they move the rails and they move the it's all sorts of stuff.
All aspects of race study are hard, really. You're not going to get anything out of it if you don't put the work in.
No, I guess not. Let's move on to our second race, the 2:15. It is the Weatherby's Hamilton Longsdale Cup. It's over 2 miles and half a furlong. We've only got 7 runners, slightly annoying for people who like a lovely little 8-runner field for each way betting purposes. But very interesting heat, this. wide, I wouldn't say wide open, but we haven't got anything dominating the market just yet, Neil. So should we have a quick look at the latest Betfair prices? Talk us through it.
Yeah, it's arguably a more competitive race now that Stradivarius doesn't run here because there's a lot more evenly matched horses in here. But Ebor for Jim Crowley is your favourite at 3.35. Dashing Willoughby, plenty of support for him this morning, 3.4. So close enough to being joint favourites there, really. Naif Road, 4.6. Eagles by Day, 11. Withhold, 14.5. Stratham...
I thought you were going to say Ingles Drever there.
That's what, 38. And Who Dares Wins for jump trainer Alan King, 65. So for me, when I went through this the other day, I was amazed that Naif Road wasn't clear favourite for this. I know on RPRs and stuff there's probably not that much between them, but on his form behind Stradivarius, he has claims for being the second best stayer out there at the minute. I know Ebor gets the weight for age and Dashing Willoughby has that sort of progressive profile, but I think that Naif Road has sort of, I wouldn't say he's been there and done it because he hasn't as such. He's finished second, but
been there and not done it.
Yeah, he's been there and not
been
done
there and
it.
almost done it. That's the best way of saying it.
Yeah, I think he's done everything that has been asked of him really this year. Bearing in mind of who he's been coming up against, and I think 4.6 or 7-2 fractional terms is a perfectly fair price for him.
Doesn't
personally.
course form worry you?
Not. Well, I mean, yes, maybe, but we don't know that it won't bother. Has Ebor run at York before?
No, the point was, yesterday there were two horses were joint favourites basically. And they were Ebor and Naif Road, and Naif Road has run twice at York, and I think York for some reason is a track that certain horses don't handle.
But he ran in the Dante
finished
and
sixth of eighth in the Dante and last of five in
the Great Voltage.
So he's running good races, and not over the trip that he excels at now. But at the same point, he hasn't run up to form in 2 runs at York.
Kills, how can you... I can understand a horse not handling Epsom or not handling Goodwood. I don't get not handling York. It's flat, it's fair, it's wide, it's not tight.
I think you can level the same at sort of every track. We've got to remember that turf in Britain or anywhere isn't the same everywhere. Which is why this is called the nose mire. It gets very boggy very quickly, very scratchy when it's dry. So some horses just do not handle York, and I think Naif Road needs to prove that he does. Now he's running the trip that he's obviously improved over. He's got a shot to, but it's a negative in my book for the price he was, and he's now drifted. You could argue that he certainly isn't a bad price now.
That was going to be my point. When I went through it and priced it or looked at it, all things being equal, forgetting it's York necessarily and just looking at it as an independent horse race, if you will. I had him as being favourite for this. And then you factor in your York stuff, and then you quantify it by saying, well, it was the Dante, it was the Voltager, and now he's run over his proper trip, blah, blah, blah. But he's drifted out now to 7-2, and I think that's just something where, he's running over a trip now, which I think we can agree is probably more his cup of tea than what those mile-and-a-half races were. And so at 4.6, it's like, I'm happy enough to take, if he was 2-1, I probably wouldn't back him, given the things that we've just raised. But at 7-2, I think there's enough juice to at least find out.
What do you think of this? Do you think it's possible that although Mark Johnson is, the winning most trainer of all time, etc., that in actual fact he's not, in the eyes of the punter, a very sexy stable, and that perhaps there isn't that kind of latching on factor with Johnson runners that there is with, say, Haggis or Gosden or Stout or a couple of other.
Well, I know somebody used to call him a binary trainer.
Yeah.
1-0, 1-0, 1-0, and that's the problem. If you've got horses that they can have dips of form, it's not necessarily fair because he's had loads of horses.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm talking about perception, and it might be a misconception. But do you almost think that punters don't kind of, like Nichols, when Nichols has a favourite in a big way, the punters love it, don't they? They just do. Gosden's the same, Haggis the same. Do you think maybe with Johnson there isn't quite that kind of
there's a lack
affinity
of
there?
Sometimes it's a lack of a marquee horse as well, or a potential marquee horse, because he has a lot of these well-bred horses, but he runs, he wins loads and loads of handicaps. He very rarely has the absolutely top-class horses.
And he beats his own favourites a fair bit.
Well,
as
yeah,
well,
exactly.
Doesn't he?
He runs
so
loads.
Maybe that's a fact.
He does run loads in the same race.
Do you think though as well, it's just different because he runs his horses so often, which is really an admirable trait, to be honest. It's also difficult though to get a handle on his horses sometimes.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
We were saying at Goodwood actually, you're actually more confident if they've got a 0 after its as its latest form figure as opposed to a 1. So when punters carry confidence into a Paul Nicholls favourite in a big race, you know what you're going to get from a Nicholls runner in that. With a Johnson runner, because they run so often, it's hard to sort of know what.
It's hard to make the argument that it's been primed for this day,
Yeah,
whereas with a
absolutely.
nickel something in a big handicap,
Yeah.
this has been the plan.
And he often will win with what looks like an afterthought kind of entry. I mean, I don't know about... I'm not a professional tipster, Keels, you are. Do you find the art of reading Mark Johnson is almost a unique one in terms of assessing stables?
I used to think I was very good at it, but it does seem to have changed over the past years. I do think it's hard to call now when he has, and he has that motto, always trying, and the jockeys change around all the time, and you can't, pick head nor tail out of why this one's on this one, you know what I mean? So, and he always books lots of top jockeys, but obviously Joe Fannin rides for the yard, and he's very often on the bigger priced ones, and they run well, and he boots home loads of winners. It's difficult, yeah, it is difficult, but he doesn't have those marquee horses, and he does run loads of horses against his own horses, and I think that's why you're not going to get people latching on to Johnston.
Okay, let's get your bet on first, Neil, because what we don't want to do is you put all that work in, suss a decent price winner, and then we either miss the price or miss the race completely. So what are we going to do here?
Yeah, we're just going to back Nair Road straight win at 4.5 and have £50 on him at 4.5, just in your traditional sort of win bet that lots of people would place every day. So it's as simple as that, really.
Okay,
so,
and don't forget, we're placing £50 bets here because we're trying to win money for the Injured Jockeys Fund. So if your normal bet is a 5 or a 10, please don't start thinking, oh, hang on a sec, everyone's betting 50s, I better start upping my stake. Do not do that. Please always bet in a way that brings you fun and not stress. Keels, who's going to win this?
Right, well, like I said, there was, the two giant favourites, I thought they were ones that you could pick holes in. Embehar has run 4 times outside of her own sex, and she's got beaten 3 of them, including the twice that she's ran in Pattern Company. She wants to go around very fast, which it isn't, and she's never run at 2 miles. So I thought there's enough negatives for a sort of 9 to 4, 2 to 1 shot. And the Naif Road, who was the other favourite, obviously you got the York factor. So I thought it was potentially, for me, between Dashing Willoughby and Eagles by Day. Now, Dashing Willoughby's the one that's been back down almost to favouritism, and Eagles by Day's drifted. I don't get that, so I'm still with Eagles by Day. I mean, he's the one with York form. I think he travelled better than he ever has in a race when he won here a couple of starts ago, beat Communique on one of Communique's going days by half a length. And he wasn't that bad behind Stradivarius last time, finished 4th in the Goodwood Cup. Bit of ground to make up on Naif Road, I think 3 lengths, but around York I'd expect him at the very least to get a lot closer. And the fact that he's nearly 3 times the price, I think Eagles by Day has to be a serious player.
that also came quite quick, didn't it? After his Goodwood run came really quick after his York run as well.
I think he's just become a little bit, a little bit forgotten about in this race. Yes, he has a bit more to find, but he's officially only £2 below Embehar on the figures, £4 below Naif Road, and £1 behind Dash and Willoughby, and he's the one with course form.
Without wanting to sound like after King's Caper as well, copying the homework and all that, when I looked at it and I said that I thought Naif Road around 2 to 1 was probably the right price before you start factoring in, Eagles by Day was the sort of next best for me in here. So I totally agree with that.
It's a big old drift though, isn't it? Because 12.5.
Yeah,
I mean, we talked about it, I think, when we were doing the show on Wednesday. I never worry about a drift unless there's actual evidence from the racecourse pictures of a horse misbehaving or getting themselves into a bit of a lather. But I mean, horses drift because other horses are fancied, and that's just the mechanics of the market, isn't it?
Yeah,
and you have to remember this as well. If every horse that was punted won, all these market moves, all these steams, if they all won, the bookmakers wouldn't be in business. They would just get cleaned out. They would lose more than they win. So I would love to commission a massive, massive study on drifters and shorteners, but
there was a study done years ago by Betfair as it goes, and you would have been far better off backing horses that drifted in the last 5 minutes than you would have done backing horses that shortened. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you get on at the tail end of a gamble on any horse, you're going to lose money in the long run without a shadow of a doubt, because you're just getting the worst price around. I would just say that Eagles by Day, there's a 3-place market, and I think 2.5, which I've just backed him at, is a massive price for Eagles by Day to finish it in the first 3.
Blimey, it's a bit. I think that people have followed you in, Kills, back down to 10.5. I tell you what, you obviously know Kevin Pauline very well, Kills. I haven't worked with him for years. He's the brilliant Racing Post football expert, and he always says the best bets to have are the ones that no one else wants to have. They're the ones that don't have a sexy narrative. They're the ones that if they lost, you'd actually feel embarrassed about. They're the ones that swim against the tide. And I think he's absolutely right. I mean, that's
you can have massive example of you have a horse that has not shown much form but has won and steps up markedly in class, is trained by a big trainer and can be a fifth of the price it should be on the form it's actually done.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a horse in a handicap with John Goslin's called Yuri Gagarin a little while ago, and he'd won his first two, but the form was dreadful. And he went off something like 13 to 8 for this really good handicap. And he finished tailed off.
Look at the weather at York today.
Oh, wow.
That looks absolutely hideous. We weren't expecting this, were we? It's
No, there
bucketing
was no
down.
rain forecast
awful.
at all, and it's hammering down. Well, you can forget your course records now, that's for sure.
Bruce, just to go back to what you're saying, though, in terms of having the bets that no one wants, that's totally true if you just look at football. No one backs the draw.
No, that's right.
Football matches,
no one backs no goal scorer. And the best example is in both teams to score, no one backs no. Well, I say literally, obviously some people do, but it's so unlike.
There's lads at my club, right, and we have a team bet where, one person does, it's a £50 bet a week. One person puts it on each time, and they all do football, and they all do both teams to score, and it's always yes, every single one of them. And I had a go at them, right, and said, "Look, come on, lads, right? There is another possibility." And then the next week, someone did it. He did one team with no, and they both scored. It was the only one that let us down.
Everybody wants to have a bet that they can cheer on.
Of course
don't they? They don't want to have a bet where they don't want nothing to happen.
Okay, let's get another social view on the two. It's the 2:15. Dermot Clark says having £2 each one. Who dares wins? He might battle on the conditions better than some of the shorter odds. What do you make of that, Kills? You love an Alan King.
I love. He's a Royal Ascot winner this year. He's a gradey winner over fences. I can't remember whether he won a gradey race over hurdles as well. Mr. Consistency under all codes. A lovely horse. I probably think he's probably out of his depth, but you can certainly see him well. You want to get that each way, maybe back him in a place market for the extra place on Betfair with 3 places.
It's currently 48. Now the runners are starting to go in, and it would be a tragedy if they. It would be a tragedy if they all went in before I said my tip. I fancy Dashing Willoughby. I've really liked what he's done this year. He's kind of held by Naif Road in his back end form last year in the Ledger and over at Longchamp, but I think he's battle hardened. I really like him. I tell you what, I can only just tell on the pictures that they're going, and it looks utterly horrendous. One theory I did hear this morning though, Kills, was that a little bit of rain would actually make the ground quicker because it's dead.
Yeah,
I don't quite get that.
Yeah, I've never really got that as well.
But just passing on what I heard from someone who does know. Well, the only other two we haven't spoken about, chaps, are both owned by an extremely shrewd gentleman called Tony Bloom, one of the great poker players of all time.
Both landed massive gambles in their time.
Stratum trained by Willie Mullins, and with Hold, of course, Roger Charlton. Who would you favour out of those two, Kills?
I just about favour with Hold. I don't think he needed to show that he was anywhere near his best when he won last time. Stratum, not 100% certain that he'll want conditions if they're like this, to be honest.
Lads, you're two are drifting like mad, aren't you?
I think it's past the best. Both drifting rather badly. But Embihar's come in while it's absolutely lashing down. They've always said that she doesn't like soft ground and she hasn't shown her best form on it. So.
I think what's happening here, Kills, the only people who are going to suffer here are the jockeys because it's horrible. 2 minutes rain, even as heavy as this, isn't going to get into the ground, is it?
Yeah, I know. The forecast for today was 0.4 mil between 12 and 3 and 0.3 between...
Here we go. They are off and running 2 miles and half a furlong the trip, and one of the Tony Bloom runners, I think that is Withhold, has been sent on. Who Dares Wins goes up with him to make sure it's an honest place, and Embihar is up early, settling in fourth Dashing Willoughby, and then we've got Naif Road, and out of the back we've got Eagles by Day in company with Stratum. Any early market ripples, Neil?
Right.
Emnihar's a little bit weaker, like drifting from what her SP was, but generally it's pretty much as you were, I guess. Maybe Withhold a little bit shorter because he's got that lead.
Okay, Kills, have you spotted anything?
I thought Dashing Willoughby might have been a bit closer. He has made the running in the past, and I thought they might want to be up there. But
Naif Road's got closer because he was one of the slower ones away, but he's up into third now.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose they could be wanting to, because going down the back straight, they could be wanting to get a bit of cover from the wind, which is blowing straight in their faces.
Yes. I tell you what, as you say, Kills, there was forecast to maybe be the odd drop or two of rain, but not this. It looks absolutely...
it might be worse than it is, just because it's really, really windy. Like, you know what I
Might
mean?
be blowing
might
it around
actually
a bit,
look
yeah.
worse than it is. But
It looks awful, that's for sure, as Withhold continues to cut out the running, challenged on the outside by Who Dares Wins. Tom Marcon may be looking for a fresher strip of ground out there. Naif Road keeping tabs in third, followed by Emberhart and then Dashing Willoughby. They're all close up. They're all going well. They've all settled. They're all very much seasoned campaigners. So a lot of horses didn't settle yesterday, Kills. There's a lot of shaking of the heads, but these are old pros. They know what they're doing. Who Dares Wins just been sent up.
If you don't settle at 2 mile, you've got real trouble, haven't you?
You certainly do.
Normally they're normally the type that run on and off the bridle, aren't they, rather than pulling the heads off. Although Naif Road has been a fair bit keen.
The market likes Dashing Willoughby at this point.
Yeah, into 9 to 5, if not a bit shorter now. So, clear favourite, Dashing Willoughby.
Are you
He's got
happy
a
enough
nice
with
position.
Eagles by day out
Well,
the back?
he's where I expected him to be, yeah. You know, he's going to
At
be
the
one that
finish.
he's going to creep in, yeah.
He's travelling nice and
Yeah,
he looks nice and relaxed
He's travelling
out there, doesn't
fine.
he?
He looks perfectly happy. A big smile on his face, so you can see he's happy. But no, he's travelling nicely. But like you said, you want to be. I'd be a bit concerned about Naif Road because he looks to me as though he's been a bit keen.
And he's out. Does the market reflect that? 5.5, 4.6, 4.8 Emberhart. They're not mad on him.
Emnehar's definitely the weakest one of
even
them all.
her.
Dashing Willoughby 13 to 8 though in running.
Okay, so Dashing Willoughby's got a nice pitch as they begin the turn for home. It's still Withhold in front. It's still Who Dares Wins in second. Dashing Willoughby close up on the rail in third. You get the impression there that Dashing Willoughby's rider, Oisin Murphy, wants that rail come what may, and he's grabbed it and push is beginning to come to shove here because Naif Road has actually come sweeping through to take it up. Going with him is Emberhart.
Emberhart,
Dashing
odds on.
Willoughby's just been caught napping on the inside, but it's the big three in the market who are dominating the race so far. Eagles by Day is trying to stay on. You won't be seeing Who Dares Wins involved in the finish. Naif Road and Dashing
Naif
Willoughby
Road
eyeballing
favourite,
each
yeah.
other now. Emberhart's just got a little bit more to do, trying to creep closer as Eagles by Day, but it's Dashing Willoughby, Naif Road and Emberhart now. It's getting a run out of Emberhart. Emberhart, Jim Crowley, is this going to be 2 from 2? Coming wide, we haven't seen too much of that. Stratum is staying on really well, but Emberhart's got it. It's going to be 2 from 2 for Jim Crowley. Emberhart wins the Lonsdale Cup. Stratum comes through for second. Naif Road is third. Dashing Willoughby's fourth. Eagles by Day is fifth, with Hold Face to finish sixth. And finally, we have Who Dares Wins. So it's the Jim Crowley Sheikh Hamdan sixfold. We've got 2 out of 2. The story is brewing.
This will be interesting. He's on the favourite in the next. Minzal will only get shorter after that, no doubt. Quite interesting actually, because I thought it was a terrible price, but I mean it is. It's only going to get shorter after that because you got 2 in there. Now Emberhart, she's not supposed to like softish ground, but she handled that. She handled those conditions well. She was stepping up and tripped for the first time to 2 miles, but it looks like she'd go another half a mile very easily as well, didn't it? I mean, she was very, very strong at the death, so maybe she just wants a real stamina test, and she's not just got away with it. She was well on top of the death.
What was the story of the in-running activity, Neil?
Yeah, well, including the winner, 4 horses traded less than 2 to 1 in running. So Emnehardt, obviously the winner. She hit a high of 7 in running. Naif Road hit even money. Dashing Willoughby hit even money, and Stratham hit 2.56. So plenty going on, really.
Stratham hit 2.5. That's bonkers, Kills, isn't it?
As we've always said, Bruce, punters love a finisher.
They do, but I mean, that was never getting there, was it?
No, didn't think so, no.
Do you ever think sometimes that those people who've got a little fast picture advantage, they feel like they've got to act on it sometimes, and they just take silly prices? I cannot explain that. It was a really good run to finish second, but there's no way that horse is ever a 7-4 shot at any point in that race. That's so peculiar.
Exactly, yeah.
Eagles by Day didn't quite get their Kills. That was it was a gallant enough run, but not threatening.
I didn't think he didn't get home in the end. He might be better at 1 mile 6.
Interesting that there was a little drift towards the centre, wasn't there?
Yes. Now
we haven't seen that at all this week.
It's what I did wonder, because obviously that rail is supposed to be 6 yards out from what it was yesterday. So, they're gonna, it's going to be further out the next day as well. So they're going to start coming over. But
there's going to be no room to race if they keep
moving
it out.
Yeah, exactly. That made it look like there was no disadvantage to being over this side, which it looked yesterday, and they all wanted to be far side yesterday. So,
and that's obviously worth bearing in mind for the straight course races. Isn't
very
it?
surprised with jockeys as well. You may see next race on the round course, you might see them all come over now because that one's just managed to win there. So
Did you think Dashing Willoughby was slightly disappointing? I mean, it looked quite early in the straight. I don't know whether Murphy was maybe just obsessing about getting that so-called golden highway, which has been such an advantage in the first 2 days, that he maybe pressed the accelerator too early. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I think, I think as he was going to the front, the others were starting to row off along as well. It's not like they were sitting and holding bundles while he was rowing away. I think they were all starting to go for it. At these courses with long straights, you do often find that they go for home a long way, especially on flat earth tracks, because they can hold it for longer. So I don't think he did anything wrong.
I suppose Stratum, Neil, is interesting in terms of what happens next, because I think Willie Mullins will have loved what he's seen there and will be thinking, there's a few targets here,
Well, he won the Cez last year. He won the Cezerowicz last year, didn't he? You sort of look at his form figures and you think, you haven't seen too much of him in this and that. But, he did win one of those big handicaps at the back end of last year, and he showed a bit more there, hasn't he?
His problem here is he's going to get hit with £4 or £5 for doing that, which is going to push him up to 110, 111.
I'll have to run in this sort of company again, I guess.
So you're probably looking, Doncaster Cup rather than Cez, unless he's got something he likes to keep the weights down for, and it says.
It looks like it's brightened up, so I get the impression that's just a passing shower. So in case anyone's seen the footage there of the rain coming down like steroids and started frantically finding mudlarks for the rest of the meeting, I'd hold fire on that, because it might just be a passing shower, and that would, even though I have very little faith in weather forecasters, that would tally with what we think is going to be the case. But certainly we're going to start seeing a shortening up effect, Keels, on Crowley's remaining rides while this run continues.
Yeah, I definitely thought so, yeah.
Because it's not an exchange thing, that, though, is it? Well, I say it's not an exchange thing. It is, because if there, just say he wins the next couple, you're then going to start seeing a roll-up effect, aren't you? And if the fixed odds liabilities are really racking up, that will pull the exchange prices down a bit, won't it?
Yeah, there will be some hedging into the exchange in terms of those liabilities. So it will have it will impact the price, but obviously not as much as you would expect to see on the sportsbook. So, for example, if he is on for 5 out of 6 or whatever, 6 out of 6, and you do fancy it legitimately, then your price on the sportsbooks is not going to be any good. Whereas on the exchange, you will get much more, probably a truer reflection of the price. Yeah.
Well, that's one to watch out for. I mean, obviously that could all be done and dusted if he doesn't win on the next one. We'll have a look at the Jim Crack.
Well, it's fascinating. The funny thing is about the Jim Crack is that he looked short enough anyway, when you consider he's 3.4. Horse who finished 1 place ahead of him went off at 4-1 with a nursery of 83 yesterday, and the horse who finished 3 places ahead of him is 8 in the same race today.
Similar story on the clock to the first race as the second. The first race over 1.5 miles was 5.6 seconds slow. That was 5.07 seconds slow.
Yeah, they've obviously, it's obviously a better race, so furlong for furlong is faster. It still definitely suggests it's on the slow side of good, though. The good or soft side of good, I'd have thought. I mean, they were good horses to still be 5 seconds slow. It's easy-ish ground.
I suppose as well, Kills, one final thought on the 2:15 there. 3/4 of length, 3/4 of length, a length. Basically, the front few have all done their running. That's what they are. There isn't an outstanding horse among them. That's how they've been performing. That's how the market expected them to perform. It's just one of those races where a load of very game, honest, genuine, consistent sorts have run in exactly that normal fashion, isn't it?
Yeah, the winner had her weight for age, which like £3, so that would equate to whatever you were talking about the other day. Nairth Road has pretty much confirmed the form of Goodwood with Eagles by Day. Sort of worked out as you'd expect to an extent, hasn't it?
What you were referring to there, Neil, is a conversation we had on yesterday's show, Kills, where we tried to work out what each of the panel thought a length equated to in terms of weight. Sorry, a pound equated to.
Right, I mean, it depends over distance.
Yeah, exactly. So we were saying over 2 miles, a pound is a length.
Pound a length, yeah.
And then what do you get it down to for 5 furlongs?
3.
3, okay.
3 a length. I think that's the generally accepted. Whether it's actually correct or not is another matter. But
you were sort of talking, there were some questions come in about like good books to read and all this sort of stuff. If you actually go onto the British Horse Racing Authority website and type in, I think it's something like handicapping tools or something into the something like that into the search bar, you actually get, I think they call it poundage, and you get the scale of what it is over flat and jumps, and it's laid out in actually a really like useful manner. So if you head on to the BHA website and type in handicapping or something like that, you get it all explained, and it's quite nicely presented there.
Thanks for that, Neil. I was trying to get people to go onto the Racing Post bookshop to try and flog him a few books.
You just need to copy those graphs and put it onto racingpost.com.
No, fair enough. Excellent stuff. Right then, we will move on to our next race, the 245. It is he says, turning his paper over, it's the Al Basti Jim Crack Stakes. It's traditionally one of the strongest 2-year-old races. And if you look at recent winners, it tends to produce sprinters rather than classic horses. Blue Point won this, and there's various other speed
won it, I think.
Muhara did win it, yeah, exactly. So, yes, it's always a very, very interesting pointer to next year. And we look forward to seeing if any of these this year will go on and become champion sprinters. I think we've got some stats to help you find the winner. Sorry, no, we don't. Pardon me. Let's have a look at the market. Okay. Can we see the market now? Here we go. I think the favourite is, yeah, well, not surprising, Jim Crowley there. Minzal.
Yeah, 3.35. Clear favourite. Yazaman, 4.6. Mystery Smiles, 7.4. You better believe it. Well, actually, Mohawk King is now 8.6, and you better believe it, 10. And 24 is all bigger the rest. I probably need a little bit of help here, because my one I was going to put up for this, Lauded, is now a non-runner as of 20 minutes ago.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was going to chance him at a price. I think he was trading at around 24s on the exchange. So he was actually, a horse that I quite like for this at a bit of a big price. Don't be scared of a price and all that. But as of 2 o'clock, he's now a non-runner. So I guess the floor is yours, Paul, really.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting race. I found it hard. I didn't actually tip anything in the paper because, although I like You Better Believe It, I just thought there's so many unknowns that I couldn't go mental at it. So I do find it quite surprising that Minzal is the price he is based on what he's done. Yes, he was impressive, but it was only in another novice race last time, and we're talking about going up into Group 2 company, and he's nowhere near. He's far too short compared to what he's done. He's running against a horse that beat him last time in Mohawk King. That one was having his first run. There's no reason why he can't improve again. Richard Hannon obviously won the race last year with Threat. And I'd imagine that Hannon Stable have won this a few times. Richard Hannon himself has only won it once. So I can't quite get why he's 9-4. He's not going to get any bigger now, obviously, with Jim Crowley. I thought Yazaman's starting to look a little bit, A, exposed and B, not necessarily the most straightforward in the world.
He sort of like sets the standard in a way, Yazaman, but it's
he
not.
Does, yeah.
But he's more like solid rather than spectacular,
it's not a massive. Yeah. It's not a massive standard, and everything else is, everything is, it does have to improve. The one I really liked was You Better Believe It. He's run 3 times. It's sort of unfashionable. He's trained by Nigel Tinkler, who's not renowned for having really, really good 2-year-olds, although he's got another one in the listed race on Saturday that's got a big chance as well, called Acklam Express. Now, this one, he travelled all over them last time at Sandown.
He was good, wasn't he?
Well,
very, visually
very
good.
Yeah, visually he was very, very good. I have to say that his main rival in the market was beaten quite early there, but he still visually looked very, very good. He also looks like he'll stay a 6 furlong. I liked him. He'd be the one that I'd back. But, as we've seen from 2-year-old races all over the season, horses can improve by miles in one run.
He was pretty good at Donny as well the time before that as well. He sort of stayed on really well. It was only over 5, but he stayed on really well. And the form of that is actually probably a bit better than his Sandown win. He'd probably be next best in at the minute. It's just a case of he's stepping up extra furlong here, isn't he? But
Kills, I've got to thank you for talking so long there. You gave me every chance to watch that
I
race.
I don't know how I carried on.
I really fancied one at Salisbury today, and I'd said to Kills before the show, when this race is off, if you could just maybe keep me off camera because I want to see how it gets on. And that was an epic effort.
Neil passed it to me
I know,
just as they were coming out of the stalls. Oh no!
Anyway, the horse got beat a length.
He went out to 20 odd in running and traded at 2s.
Did he?
Yeah.
You did that all the while and talking. You should be a one-man band. You could play the guitar, the kazoo.
When it comes to betting and talking about horses, I can pretty much do it all. Anything else, I'd be useless.
Anything else, you are useless, aren't you? You're absolutely hopeless. Like, honestly, I've worked with Kills for years, and if you say to him, do you want a cup of tea? They go, no, I'll make one. So he's sitting there, and about an hour later, you go, where's that tea, Kills? Oh, yeah. Oh, God. You reckon you're only about evens to drink any cup of tea you make at home, aren't you?
I'm edging towards odds against the way it's been going lately. It's terrible. I go, cup of tea, put it down aside, and then, an hour later. I mean, I've even got not as far as not putting the milk in and forgetting about it. Just pour the water, then walk off and do something, away. And then sit down and forget that I poured a cup of tea. Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Just the thrill of boiling the kettle.
I'm amazed the dog actually gets fed in your house. I've got a mystery here, Kills, on this market. Why is Mohawk, who beat the favourite?
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, it doesn't.
Why? If you'd have been listening.
Yes, I'm just about to ask you everything.
You've just got to go back. Got to go back over it all now.
Been watching a race at Salisbury all afternoon, haven't you?
What do you think again? Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I'm going to put my £2 in. I think Mohawk King is a ridiculous price at 8.2. I thought it was a very big price at 4-1. For the reasons that Keels apparently stated earlier. I accept that Minzal has since done something quite decent, but I think Mohawk King at 8.2. I also think that Yasman, I think he's a half-decent place bet because I think he's about 1.8. He's such a good yardstick, isn't he? This horse is knitting together so many different strands of two-year-old. Did he say that as well?
He was saying that he's really solid and sets a bit of a standard, yeah.
Okay, here's something I know you didn't say. It's a big weekend.
You've got another 12 minutes to come up with something original.
All right, I've got one now. Big weekend for two-year-old racing, isn't it? Because we've obviously got the Solario, we've got the big race in Ireland, but most importantly, we've got the Prix Morny at Deauville, haven't we? In which some of the very best two-year-olds we've seen so far this year slugging it out on heavy ground.
Heavy ground's a massive unknown, isn't it? I mean, we know what it's like. Having been at Deauville, it can get really boggy there, can't it?
And what's weird about it is it gets boggy when it's the most beautiful weather.
In the height of summer, they get an incredible amount of rain. It's very often at these meetings in the summer. It's very often soft ground there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. My favourite moment, Neil, of going to Deauville with Paul Kealy once. We went one year and we were staying in that beautiful posh hotel, weren't we? You remember? Really posh rooms and, it had a lovely pool and it was really grand. The architecture was superb. And Keels, the only thing he liked about his room, right? There was, he had these gorgeous antique furniture and luxury fittings and everything. Yeah. What was your favourite feature of the rooms?
SIS in your room. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Like Quiddy or whatever it was.
He said, come on, let's go and have a look around Deauville. Normandy's a lovely area. I said, I want to watch the Great
St. One at Redcar.
It was the Great St. Wilfrid, wasn't it?
It was the Great St. Wilfrid, yeah, exactly. So, I mean... What a great advert.
Although we
for
did
Deauville tourism.
We did go to the sales. We talked about this. We talked about this a couple of days ago. Whenever we go somewhere, we find something to bet on. And a few years ago, at the Art, we went to the Louvre and we were betting on
which year the painting.
Well, we went to the Arcana sale and we sat there without a program book, and we just took turns in pricing up how much it would make.
Yeah, and then going higher or lower.
Yeah, over under 300.
Not that having a sales catalogue would have helped.
No.
This thing, we said Minzal wasn't going to get any shorter, any bigger, but it actually has just nudged up a little bit, Neil, hasn't it?
I actually went back to the market then. When you said it's getting a bit shorter, I didn't realise I was on the place market. I was like, Christ, it's 1.6 here. What's happened here? But I was on the wrong market. Minzal, 3.45. Yazman 4.5, really solid, a bit like what we spoke about. He's holding his position in the market. Mystery Smile 7.4. Mohawk King 8.2. You better believe it 10. Just a pretty solid market, really. Not a lot happening with it, really.
The point being, we are still, just shy of 10 minutes short of off time, aren't we? So the last 2 or 3 minutes, you can get some really, really big moves on Betfair. We might get to know by then. No, I don't think, if bookies were going to think about hedging, if there was an ACCA going on, I don't think they'd be putting it in really early, would they?
No, not necessarily.
You know what I mean?
No.
So we'll wait and see what happens. I mean, if it suddenly went on a walk, you'd have to say, well, hang on a minute, bookmakers might not want it to go out that big. But then again, there is, there are bookies today, but they're not using that as the on-course market. Are they?
No, of course they're not.
Like,
No,
you know
no,
what I mean?
because that would be impossible. Yeah.
So I mean, they can set their own price, really, can't they? Which is basically what they're doing. So
There is one in here who is this one of the My Racing?
Yes, there is. I was going to say that. Yes. Well, while you mentioned that, I did promise you exotic My Racing tips, and here we go. They've gone in this race in the 245. 7 Brothers, who's trading at a huge price, and they've also gone with a win double of 7 Brothers and Broomy Law in the 345, who's also going to be a big price. So they've really, really gone for a big one there. You may well want to turn that into an each-way double if you fancy, because you would be gutted if you went chasing glory with 2 massive price ones and one of them won and one of them got placed. But anyway, very, very bold stuff from those shrewd judges down at myracing.com. Check them out. What do you make of 7 Brothers?
Well, interesting, like going back to Paul's point about horses for courses at York. This one is already a course and distance winner, so we know he acts on the track. He's pretty gutsy last time. He kept pulling out a little bit more. He nearly made all. A couple of winners have come out from his debut win, and then another from his course and distance win. So, again, he's a big price, so you can't put anyone off it. And in a market which we've already cast some questions around, why is one horse shorter than the other and all this sort of stuff, can't put you off that at all, really.
Okay.
The standard of what he's run to at the moment is miles below what a normal Gimcrack winner would win, and I'm talking a long way. He's got a racing post rating of 86, but then I think Minzal's got a racing post rating of 87. We're looking at that sort of race. Obviously, 2-year-olds being rushed into it, they haven't done that much. But he has got, to win even a bad Gimcrack, he'd have to improve a hell of a lot. And the thing that Neil pointed out there, he looked really game last time, which means he had to work hard to run to that level. Now he's going to, he's probably going to have to run £20 higher. I wouldn't really fancy him, but he is trained by Kevin Ryan. He's won this a couple of times and with outsiders, so it's possible he can come up, but he'd be down my list by a fair way.
Do you know, if you owned a horse and you won the Gimcrack, you'd be delighted, wouldn't you? Because you've got a fantastic 2-year-old. But you know what you've got to do?
Yeah.
You've got to do the speech at the Gimcrack dinner. Now, when I was editor, when I actually counted for something almost, I used to get invited to this every year. And the first year, this invite turned up in the most beautifully sort of embossed paper, and, it was really, obviously really luxurious. And you looked at it and it said you're invited. And there were 2 things that grabbed me about the invite. The first one, it said dress code, tails. So I'm like, well, what? It's apparently like hunting tails, not just tails. I got my head around tails. By the way, do you remember that wedding we went to? Alex's wedding.
Oh yeah.
You, me, and one other colleague, and all the other blokes had tails and morning suits, and we had our Mr. Byright suits on, didn't we? We stood out like sore thumbs. So anyway, the thing about the Gimcrack invite is, first of all, it says dress code hunting tails, and then on the back it says, "Will your chauffeur require a meal?" I mean, that's not a question I'd ever been asked before.
What was hunting tails then?
Hunting tails is it's a type of sort of posh wear, and I'm not actually. I never went.
Oh, okay.
I never went because my chauffeur could never decide whether he wanted a meal or not. But anyway, you've got to do that if you win it. But I guess if you win a Gimcrack, you don't mind.
Now, sometimes they go on for ages as well, don't they?
The speeches. I should think so, yeah. I should think so. Like I say, I never put myself through it.
That's at the start of this meeting, isn't it? Is that when the meal is?
No, it's later on in the year.
Okay.
It's later on in the year. Threat won this last year, and I mean, I think Threat runs tomorrow. Is it against
One
Master?
Master? Tomorrow in the Strensful Stakes in the opener. No, he runs. She runs in the city.
They're still trying to
He runs
find
in the city of York over 7 furlongs.
That's it. Yeah, they're still trying to find a right trip, basically, aren't they? With Threat.
Yeah, we're still trying to find out whether he's trained on as well.
Okay.
I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Because, he looked like he had loads of ability of Ascot. He travelled really strongly, too well. But then the drop to 6 furlongs, I mean, he didn't show anything at all, really.
No.
So hard to see. I mean, he might, coming back to York again, but question marks against it.
I tell you what, question mark against Minzal, because he might not even be favourite at this rate now.
Is he walking now, is he?
Yeah,
certainly is.
3.85, and Yazaman is the one who's coming in 4.1. So I guess out of everything in terms of like you're guessing a little bit with Minzal, you're guessing a little bit with Mohawk King. What we said about Yazaman is you pretty much know what you're getting with him, and I guess in that sort of market with so many questions,
It's a solid option, isn't he?
Yazaman is the one with the least amount of questions, I guess, in terms of what he is. It's a case of whether there's something better than him in there. And I guess for the point of view of wanting to get the hierarchy of 2-year-olds this season, wanting who's best, I guess it would be disappointing if there isn't something in here that can beat him. But at the same time, he sets the standard, doesn't he?
And also, he
In a
would
threat-
enhance the horses that have beaten him
that's
last
fair.
3 if he did that. So in a way, I think it might
Works both
actually
ways,
not
I
be such a
suppose,
bad
yeah.
thing.
Didn't Threat have a similar profile last year as well? As in,
Had run a few times.
Had run and been beaten a few times. I'm going to cheat and I'm going to check now. Yeah, he'd been second at Royal Ascot. He'd been second at Goodwood. So, similar sort of profile. Then comes out, wins this, wins at Doncaster.
I'll tell you
They're
what,
good races. They're good races in their own right.
course
That
they are,
Yazaman has been, running well, and he's been beaten by Tactical twice, hasn't he? And he
Yeah.
looks good.
Yeah.
So,
we haven't had a team bet yet, Neil. Why don't we
No.
do the My Racing one? Why don't we do Seven Brothers, eh?
yeah, that's fine. Well, how do we want to play it? Just in the win or win?
No, I
place?
think we should split our stakes here because we've got 9 runners, so it's nice for 3 places as well. So why don't we have...
You've got 4 places as well, of course. As well,
Okay,
as an
all
option,
right, we're going to
so,
have 3 separate bets here. This is sounding like the Monty Python thing, isn't
This is
it?
a
The
wonderful
Spanish
way
Inquisition.
to showcase the Betfair Exchange. Then, isn't
Exactly,
it?
and the flexibility it provides. Let's have a tenner at 21, which it now is, because since I said let's back it, it's shortened a couple of points.
In the win market.
Tenner to win.
Yeah.
And then let's go on to the classic 3 places.
Yeah, so the standard place market here, which is 3 places.
He's 7 to 2 there. Why don't we have 20 on that?
So we'll go here and we'll have £20 at 7 to 2 here.
And then on the 4 place market, he's round about 2 to 1.
Yeah.
So should we have 20 there as well?
So
Is
that's
that
our
okay?
50 quid.
That's
been
50 quid.
Split between the 3 markets.
Yeah, and the beauty there is we might win nothing, one of them might win, 2 of them might win, or we might have all 3 up.
That one's just unmatched, but we'll just leave it there for the time being. And actually, I might put in just to take the SP at the start if we haven't got matched. So at least
What's
that
not
way
matched?
The 4 to be places.
Okay.
4 to be placed.
What's that last thing you said?
So as it's unmatched, you've got 3 options that when the race goes in running, you can either cancel your bet, so you don't want any involvement. You can keep it, so it becomes an in-running bet.
What have you asked for?
Or you can take the SP, so you can just take the price of what it is
What
at the start.
What have you asked for?
It's in at 2.98. So it'll probably get matched before
Yeah,
now
I'm
anyway.
Not sure it will, it's shortening all the time.
all the time, yeah.
Come on, let's not mess up. Mind you, I don't know. They're ambling
Well, if we
down
take
to
the SP,
start.
then we're definitely going to
it's up
get
there now.
matched.
I tell you what, guys, the weather's bad again. Look,
Yeah.
if you look at those pictures now, it's really, really gloomy. It's wet and windy. It's not a pleasant day on the Knavesmire, I must say that. And that, that does have potential ground implications for later in the day. So it's really important. We will keep you across all the latest weather. We'll assess the times and let you know if there's any clues for the rest of the day and indeed tomorrow, of course.
Into 18 now, 7 brothers.
Aye, aye.
It's quite interesting, though, right? That 2.98 keeps going into the pink column, but it doesn't get laid. Something else jumps in front of it.
Do you tend to be patient?
Am I
Chris,
allowed
when
to lay it?
Eh?
Are you laying it?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to lay
Of
it?
course you are. What, you don't fancy it at all? All right, go on then. Just remember, you're denying charity the chance of a few quid, though. Are you
I'm
that
not
callous?
denying it.
I know you're enhancing it,
am I?
aren't you? You're contributing
We're coming out
to
of
it.
Paul's pocket.
I'm-
if it-
Coming out
Kills,
of
let
my
me ask you
pocket.
this, right? When you're putting your exchange bets on, are you one of these people who, if you go for a
got
price
to
and then
wait
all of a
now.
sudden it moves, do you chase after the price or do you sit and wait?
I don't chase after it. I chase it out if it drifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will.
And if it
I will
shortens,
step
do you
in.
sit and wait?
Yeah.
I'm hopelessly
Oh, yeah.
impatient. Yeah, I am. I need to learn the art of patience. So going behind the stalls, 6 furlongs, because there's only 9 runners
Right,
now.
you should be done, Neil.
Yeah, we are. We are, Matt. Thanks very much, Paul.
Excellent. That really is the essence of person-to-person betting. 2 people sitting socially distanced just about a metre and a half apart have had a bet with each other on the Betfair
That is exactly how the
Exchange.
exchange works.
Kills, any potential draw implications here? Or I better ask, because Dave Orton always asks, where's the pace going to be?
Well, I'm not 100% sure.
Seven Brothers, maybe.
It could be Seven Brothers, yeah. Draw implications. Well, Yazaman is 2. Where's Minzal? That's 4. Mohawk is 3. There's your first 3 in the betting. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know what they're going to do, because obviously with Ebor coming out wide last time, they might decide, well, let's all go over there for now. And then
I'd normally quite like to be
1,
low
2, 3 isn't that good. But
Mystery Smiles is solid. The Andrew Balding runner.
Yeah, he won round Chester last time, so I suppose if you're looking for any sort of experience that you can get into these juveniles at an early stage, whipping round there won't have hurt him in terms of learning how to do stuff.
As well, so I mean, the rain isn't gonna hurt.
Minzal now much more solid at the top of the market instead of Yazaman, so but still like 3.85. So it's not like he's shortened up massively. It's more a case of Yazaman has come back out a little bit.
Okay. Right, well, Neil will be keeping us up to date with all the market moves as the race continues. They're almost all in for the 2020 Albasti Equiworld Dubai Gimcrack Stakes. They are off and running at gloomy Old York, and those bright yellow colours of Yazaman are to the fore early on, also on the far side.
Seven Brothers on the left.
That's Seven Brothers going okay, isn't it? I think Escape Route might be up there. Obviously in the trademark balding noseband down the centre is Mystery Smiles. And Minzal has come... No, it's the second colour, isn't it? Who's that? Is that Minzal? No, he's dropped out, actually. He's right at the very back.
You better believe it in the red cap.
Racing
fast,
quite keenly, isn't he?
Probably doesn't want to be...
Seven Brothers, 8.4.
This is a real cruiser. Mohawk King, by the way. He's going really well indeed. Is he favourite now?
No, Minzal's still favourite, but Mohawk King close enough.
Behind him, isn't he?
Mohawk's cruising. Minzal's come through there with a really good turn of foot. He starts getting busy now on Mohawk King. And Minzal is coming through now down the near side. We've got Devil Warlow's come through, but it's Minzal. It's Minzal. It's Jim Crowley again. This story is gathering legs. He's come down the near side and he's 2 lengths clear. He's way too good for them. Minzal wins from the outside of Devil Warlow. Third, we've got Mystery Smiles. Wow, 3 from 3 for Jim Crowley. This is going to get very short. Batash, he's got next for 4 out of 4. Excellent stuff.
Yes, 4 out of 4.
That was easy, and that was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was very easy.
Did you rate that, Kills?
Yeah,
you couldn't not, could you?
That was a nice performance. That's why he's the price he was. They all knew what they had, didn't they?
Yes, indeed. I mean, it looked, didn't it, like Mohawk King was going absolutely superbly. How short did he get, Neil?
Mohawk King, 3, so 2 to 1. Devil Warlow hit 2.56. That's about it. Minzal hit a high of 6. I'm not sure if that actually... He might have been more 6. No, it was in the race. But then it was just like a one-way traffic after that. Once he hit 6, he just got shorter and shorter and shorter, and he's done that really nicely, hasn't he?
He has indeed. Yeah, stand on quite nicely on the outside of his Escape Route to snatch 4th. Kills, are we seeing a potential draw situation developing as well here?
I don't know. I mean, he did most of his racing down the far side, didn't he? And then just came across
towards the end.
I mean, I think he was hanging more than anything. I don't think the jockey said, right, let's go over there.
No, but Devil Warlow has run really well, predominantly down the stand side. That was more my angle.
Yeah, but... I mean, is it stand side altogether, really? They're a long way off the rail at this moment, aren't they?
It's a horrible day, isn't it?
I mean?
Really,
it is, yeah.
really gloomy old day up there, that's for sure.
We'll get some idea about the time here, I suppose, when we get this race. It was a 2-year-old race on the straight.
Yeah, they've gone lickety-split, haven't they? You better believe it. He was up there for a bit, but then
he just went too fast. He was far too keen. And
he was cooked, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I tell you what really impressed me was that mid-race move by Crowley there, because... You know, having looked like he wasn't struggling by any means, but he wasn't getting run off his feet, but he was certainly out in the rear, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden, 3 out to 2 out, he's got himself nice and handy. 2 out to 1 out, he's gone and put the race to bed. And then the final furlong's a procession, isn't it?
Just hands and heels as well. It's not like he's got serious at all with him, has he?
Yazaman has only managed potentially 6th or 7th. That wasn't a great performance, that was it? I don't know whether there's excuses for him, but... That certainly does potentially take a little bit of lustre away from the form of some of those, well-touted 2-year-olds.
I know what it's like when you're the jockey on, say, Mohawk King, because he's the one that looks like the traveller. Pat Jobs is there, and then suddenly he sees this thing come alongside him going just as well, and he's suddenly oh God, I better start rowing, and nothing happens, and he goes on. It was, this was a really decent performance from the 2-year-old, I think.
Yeah, it really, really was. And Kills, I mean, Jim Crowley, obviously all the talk is going to be now just about the fourfold with Batash in our next race. And like we've said at the start, he's got 2 more for Sheikh Hamdan in the next 2 races as well. So there's going to be a lot of activity in the bookmaker offices and betting shops. But just tell us what you think of him as a rider, because I mean, for donkey's years, he was a good jump jockey, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, when he first started, I felt like I was one of the first to latch onto him, and I was backing him on. He won something with me at Epsom, big prize, Corporal Maddox, I think it was, in something like the woodcut. And I was telling everybody how good he was, and I sort of went off him, and then but he just. He's been riding for ages, but he just does seem to be getting better and better. And you ride with more confidence, don't you? And he's been booting home loads of winners. He's been champion jockey. There's no reason why he can't be again.
And if you look at his flat career, it's relatively short in relation to his age. So maybe he's an old dog learning tons and tons of new tricks.
Yeah, but he's riding with loads of confidence at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt.
If you actually just look at his flat career, he's actually got this gig, this sort of like high-profile riding job, like really early in his career. If you just look at his flat career, hasn't he? I flagged up that he hit 6 in running. It was because when the stalls opened, he actually missed the break totally, and he was last. Well, not well last, but he missed it by a length or so.
But he'd done that on his debut as well, hadn't he? I think behind Mohawk.
Yeah, slowly away. Yeah.
He's a good prospect, this, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, it's funny. I was trying to look at a horse that I found that I thought might be quite good earlier. It was a son of Memas, and I can't find it. Now, Memas was that brilliantly fast 2-year-old trained by Richard Hannon. And
retired as a 2-year-old.
Obviously retired as a 2-year-old. Yeah, Minzal is a son of Memas. Supremacy, who won for Clive Gox at Goodwood, and Method of Martin Mead. So he's turning into, a bit of a super 2-year-old sire now, isn't he?
Do you know what? I mean, fair play to Connections, that's great, and they've obviously struck gold with that. But I don't like seeing horses retired at 2. I really don't. Do you remember you had that year? Was it who's the sire of the Learjet? With a similar name. It was Michael Bell, wasn't it? The something Lear, the Prince Lear. You had the Prince Lear, and then didn't you have a Braveheart called something Lion?
The Last Lion.
The Last Lion. They both retired the same year as 2, along with another one. Now 151
Dark Angel was Dark Angel didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Kills 151 slower than standard.
1.51 slower than standard. Group 2 over 6 furlongs. Yeah, I mean you'd have to say it's still on the easy side, but it isn't. That rain isn't having much in the way of effect, is it? Like, what I mean, it's not really slow, is it?
No,
like, what I mean, it's on the easy side. I don't think we'll be, I mean, how much faster than standard does Batash have to run? Probably a lot. He'd have to be 3 seconds faster or something. I don't think we'll be seeing that somehow.
Just as well, Mystery Smiles was 3rd. He's by Memas as well, so he had a 1-3.
Right, yeah. So he's obviously looking like a proper sire. Dark Angel was Batash's sire, by the way. So,
but it's another kind of bit of momentum towards this trend towards speed and flashy 2-year-olds. It's not really where we want to be, is it? And I think the chickens are coming home to roost, because if you look at the quality of the middle distance 3-year-old
about it, weren't we, on one of the previous shows?
It's really, really disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good at all.
It's not good at all. Okay, but anyway, that was a really, really terrific performance. It will be interesting to see where Minzal goes next. I mean, is there anything else you could take out that race, Kills, in terms of, putting one in your Racing Post tracker because you thought, that could win a race next time out? Or was it really all about
I'm not saying. I mean, I would forgive. I think you better believe it going to 6 furlongs was too keen and didn't get any cover. I would say he's a hell of a lot better than that back at 5 furlongs. It might be one of those that, because he's run like that, he'll run in the Flying Childers on fast ground at Doncaster over 5 and might be a little bit ignored when he shouldn't be. So I'd keep an eye on that.
Well, Devil Wala,
I was about to say him as well.
They paid over 200 grand for that at one of those delayed breeze-ups. And there were probably people after the Haydock run who thought, not sure about that. But that was a decent run.
I was going to say that he might be one for perhaps one of the big sales races later in the year, and then when you see he's cost 220 grand, it'll probably be top weight in it or something, wouldn't
exactly,
he?
But,
he might not even be qualified for some of them.
Yeah, exactly. But he's an interesting one anyway, just without any of that, because he won at Haydock and then he ran stepped up in grade and ran really well there. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on as well. I guess Mohawk King as well. To be fair, he beat the winner on debut, and he travelled really nicely up to a point. So he's just.
But he was passed so quickly, wasn't he? He really, really was. And I suppose that the lesson I need to learn there is just because he's beaten the other horse last time, if the market's telling you that they think the other horse is going to improve past it, don't just stand there thinking you know best.
Well, I think as well, that race at Ascot, he did get the breaks at the time that Minzal didn't. Minzal finished really strongly there, so he was actually one of those eye catchers at Ascot that you then get sucked into normally. But he has proven that he is probably the better horse out of the two of them. Absolutely.
Let's move on to the big race of the day, the 3:15. It's the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes, one of the highlights of the summer sprint series. It's a 5 furlong dash, worth a call 141 grand. I know prize money is down this year because for obvious reasons, but it's still a lovely pot to win. Batash has won nearly £1.5 million during a sensational career, and he's looking to put another notch in the bedpost here. He's got an interesting history with this race, Kills, hasn't he? He's running it three times and been beaten by 6 horses. See how many you can name. You can join in, Neil.
Mabs Cross.
Correct.
Megas Angel.
Alpha Delphine.
Yeah.
Alpha Delphine.
Yeah.
Megas Angel.
No. Kotai Glory.
Kotai Glory.
Blue Point.
Blue Point. The Mare.
Marsha.
Oh, Elite Race, yeah.
That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Very
so,
good.
I mean, he's been beaten by some good uns, but he has been beaten a fair few times. And then last year he came out and it was a case of third time lucky. He won in what we now know to be trademark Batash fashion. Should we have an early butchers at the market, Neil?
Yeah, so he is predictably favourite and fairly short. Well, not say fairly short, 1.5. Art Power, who you've got to assume that if any rain has got in, is not going to hurt his chances. 4.7, Al Ali 13, and then you're straight out to 50s or bigger the rest, led by Moss Gill. That
4.7 basically equates to, in summary, on the uneasy side, if you're looking at market confidence in Art Power, doesn't it? It's been billed as this incredible clash between the two, and that is what it is. But Kills, I mean, 2's on Batash, 4.7 Art Power. Is the market right to have that big a gap between the two of them, do you think?
Well, I mean, the form suggests that, if anything, it should be more, shouldn't it? You've got an official rate of a Batash of 126, you've got 115 Art Power. We don't know yet how good Art Power is, but we do know how good Batash is, and that is the best sprinter for 30 years. So, he's got to...
Is he?
Really?
He's the best sprinter for 30 years?
He's got to be the best sprinter for 30 years. Yeah. He's best sprinter since Deja, without a shadow of a doubt, I think, yeah.
Is he better than Blue Point?
At his best. Well, I mean, Blue Point's an Ascot horse. When you talk about horses that do it at different tracks, then Batash has got that over him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. I mean, I think Batash has been below form every year he's run at Ascot, even when he's won there. You know what I mean? So, take out one meeting away. His best form has been elsewhere.
So, in summary then, are you saying that basically the market is right here, or could you actually make a case for Batash being even shorter?
I think you can make a case for Batash being shorter. He has that one run last year where he wasn't so good, but I mean, let's face it, he's got 7 runs, he's got 4 runs before it and 2 after it, where he's run to a racing post rating of at least 122. So people keep saying, well, he's going to be due a bad one, isn't he? I mean, his bad season was 2 years ago. He ran one bad race last year on what was bottomless ground at Longchamp. So he's added consistency to his brilliance, which means he's going to be really hard to beat. Now, I mean, Art Power has looked fantastic. Keep Busy at Royal Ascot, 3.5 events, very easy, giving chunks away. Keep Busy's, rated 100 odd now. Isn't a bad horse at all. Only just got touched off on Wednesday. Mill Isle won a group race after getting thrashed by him,
and then blew out.
And then blew out, yeah. But I mean, but still ran a really good race. He's got an top RPR of 117. Still puts him 5 behind the worst Batash has done other than that Longchamp. It's not insurmountable, but it's just unusual to get 2 horses that sort of talent at the same time. He's got to improve. It certainly won't mind him the ground being dead, because most of his forms come on softish ground. I give him a chance. It'd be interesting. I'd love to see Batash run to form and it be close and find out that we have got another very good horse, but he's got to step up. The market is at the very least, it's right.
We're just seeing some shots of Batash walking towards the parade ring in the company of his beloved. Is it Big Mick, the stable lad? I think it is, isn't it? And Batash looks like he's walking beautifully, but that's partly because poor old Mick, he struggles a bit these days. But I mean, he's part of that story. He's a, you know, he does great work with Batash in terms of keeping him settled. And Batash looks perfectly placid here, Neil. I mean, if you were having negatives in the past with Batash, it would largely be the fact that it was a big crowd. Maybe by 3:15, people slightly consumed a few many of those cheap bottles of champagne at York, and it might start getting a bit raucous. But there's nobody there, and Batash is an absolute gentleman these days, isn't he?
Yeah, the temperament is the thing, and at York, where you've got to walk all the way across the track to get to the parade ring and stuff, it did actually look like that it'd been not bussed over, what would you call it? Race boxed over to the track, because he's got straight up there and straight into the parade ring. But he showed at York last year, we're watching back now, but he showed at York last year he could handle the crowds as well. So, yeah, maybe it just took a bit of time for him to find his feet there at York. But
he was awesome last year, wasn't he?
Great, wasn't
he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was, you know, that was a track record that had been there for years.
he's just an exciting horse, isn't he? I mean, you know, this. I know that, you know, we were just bemoaning the kind of recent phenomenon towards speed, but if you do get a real speedball like him, I mean, there's no more exciting, exhilarating sight, is there? He's just absolutely superb. Okay, so
I guess we're not saying that speed is a bad thing generally.
No,
because you're always going to have 5 and 6 furlong races.
Yeah,
exactly.
you want top class blistering speed, and let's face it, there was a time, wasn't there, Kills? I suppose between Locksong and, you know, much more recently, where it was almost past the parcel for these big sprint prizes, wasn't it? There was no horse was ever grabbing them by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, Carl, I mean, Locksong did, you know, was a multiple winner, but she blew out at York as well, didn't she? If you remember, I was there that day. I mean, she couldn't even hold her going down at the start. Like, you know what I mean? So I mean, they are. I went to the Royal Ascot preview once. A private one, and Michael Hills was there, and he just said, "This is, you know, this horse is a hand grenade." He said the only problem is you got a time taking the pin out at the right time, like, you know. And he said you don't know what he's going to do, but now he's calmed down. He is, you know, he has become the most consistent sprinter around.
Yeah, because I mean, it's an incredible career. I mean, he wasn't much of a 2-year-old, was he? He got well beaten in, I think, the Windsor Castle. I'm not quite.
Well, there was rumours going around. There was a massive Royal Ascot preview at Ascot, isn't there, the week before? And there was rumours going around there that this was one of the fastest horses Charlie Hills would ever have. I mean, he hadn't been trained that long. But obviously he was just too much of a baby, because he blew out completely. And it wasn't until he got gelded and came back. I think he was 10-1 at Sandown when you think about 10-1 to win a listed race at Sandown. And then just went on from there.
He won the Scurry, didn't he?
Yeah, it was the Scurry, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Art Power now, the new kid on the block. We're just seeing a few pictures of him winning one of those new races at Royal Ascot. It was a handicap over 5 furlongs, but if the handicapper had put a washing machine on his back, I still think he would have won. It was a really impressive performance, wasn't it? And he's gone on then, he's gone over to Ireland and he's won well. I mean, he's really progressive and he's really interesting, but this is a huge step up now, isn't it?
He gets £2 because he's a 3-year-old as well. I was actually looking at that. If the race was last week, he would have got £3, but because we're into the second half of August, he gets £2 now, I think.
Oh, okay. It's unlikely to be a factor, Neil.
Yeah, it's just a.
You never know, do you?
It's just a quirk in terms of how if it was last week, he'd get an extra £1, whatever. He's done nothing wrong. It's just good though, because we know what Batash can do, and you see it in sort of the staying division with Stradivarius. If you're just beating the same horses over and over again, for all that Stradivarius is amazing and brilliant, whatever, it gets a bit repetitive if you're just beating the same horses over and over again. So the fact we've got a horse like Art Power, who is exciting, is interesting, we don't know how good he can be, it's the acid test for him today, but that's what we want to see. We want to see him taking it all on, and so it's great for...
It's hammering down again.
Oh my goodness me, what's going on with this weather? It's ridiculous. It's coming down diagonally. Yeah. Neil, we better have a bet. What are you going to do?
I'm going to shy away from the top of the market and instead head to some of the other markets that we've got. So we've got both a place market, a 2 places and a 4 places. I'm going to look in the 4 places market and I'm going to back Moss Gill whose York form is around 4 times at York, hasn't been out the first 2, winning twice and being runner-up twice. I think he won on his last start here as well. He's versatile with regards to the ground. His last win at York was a high on RPR, so he's moving in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, his RPR that he's posting is nowhere near good enough to challenge Batash in that, but he's moving in the right direction. We know he loves the track. I think he should be good enough to at least, shake up those places. And so at 2.34, which is 11 to 8 to finish in the first 4, I'm quite happy to side with him.
Okay.
So it's just a different way of playing a race without having to, make a judgment call or without having to play at odds on if that's not your thing, and for some people it's not.
The trouble with that bet, though, Neil, is we'll all be watching Batash and Arpal locked together, and you'll be looking around the back of the TV to see where Moss Gill is.
I was thinking if we we're going to have a match bet, and it would be between 2 of the rags, and that would be one of our charity style bets that we would have. And Batash is off into the distance.
Yeah, we'll be cheering away as Emirati Anna and Ornate do battle, and someone go, "What happened to Batash?" Let's see what you've been saying down on the feed, and don't forget, do please click on that like. We'd love you to like the field. The feed. Daniel Mann says, Kayamoro, 18 to 1. Extra place this morning. Extra place. Get you. That was good work. Alan Waltham, Emirati Anna to place. 8 to 1 will do for me. Good luck, Alan. That is an interesting
There's some outsiders for you, Paul. They've responded.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Emirati Anna won a gym cut a couple of years ago, so that's cool form. So, but on the figures, does have an awful lot to do. That said, she's a bigger price than the likes of Kayamoro. Who's the same? Who's on the same rating? Moscow was only rated £4 higher, so there was places to go. There's 3 horses with much better quality form than the others, and the one we haven't mentioned, of course, is Ayali, who won 3 Group 2s as a 2-year-old, and his honour hat-trick.
It was a nice win in Ireland last time, wasn't it?
It was a good win in Ireland. Maker Challenge is pretty good. He beat. I had a good bet on Liberty Beach in the Group 3 at Ascot in July. Sandown in July. And come through and actually won quite comfortably, so shouldn't rule him out because he's on a roll and he's on a hat trick, and he's a decent performer. So,
and Kills, we're seeing with the market there just that how you get these each way races, and if you're not aware of what a bad each way race is, this is it. You've got a very short favourite, a very short second favourite. 4 of the 8 are big prices, and that just leaves the third favourite, Al Ali. That's why he's 7 to 1 on the books, where you can get a 5th the odds to 3 and still make money, and 13.5 on Betfair. So it's an interesting one. With 4 places as well, Kills, just take us through the outside quintet, if you will, and just see who you like most out of those.
You've got Ornate, who's been very good and a very fast horse for a long while. He was about 5 lengths clear in last year's Stewards Cup after about a furlong and a half. Just not good enough anymore. He's rated 99. He'll go fast, but he'll finish last because he'll get blown away by the better horses. Curious, not convinced about him at all. His wins are at Sandown. Almost polar opposite.
Be careful, because Big Dan behind the glass is absolutely all over this horse. So
it's almost polar opposite to York, though, isn't it? York's a pretty sharp track, and Sandow's a very stiff track. One way to go. Emirati Anna, obviously course winner, Group 2 winner, and was finished third. In a couple of group races this year, so he's got a shot of finishing the first 4 for sure. Kayamoro's the one that could be a big improver. I think that was her first time in pattern level. Last time was 3rd in the race that Moscow won. Very fast, not entirely convinced that she's going to want any further easing in the ground, but she's very fast, but she does go forward as well, and there's lots of horses that do go forward here. Sometimes the pace holds up, sometimes it doesn't, but if she starts trying to take on Batash at the front end, I don't think it's going to end well.
Keith Melrose, who was on the show yesterday, we had a little sneak preview of this race, and he said, don't fancy Ali at all. I'm going to back Kayamoro at 40 to 1 each way. He was very confident.
It's worth in this race.
Again, she's run it 4 times as well. She's run well every single time.
Yeah, the last 10 years here, there's been 100 to 1 winner of this and 2 40 to 1 winners of this. So if you do fancy a prize, I'm not saying that it's going to happen this year, but it is a race that throws up the odd.
That's mad, isn't it? Why would that happen? Because I know, you might blame that on the 2-year-old influence, but we don't have 2-year-olds in this race, do we? So it's slightly peculiar that, it's a race that should throw up so many shocks.
It's maybe a bit of snobbery towards, for so long, because we've been missing the stars at that sprinting division, there hasn't necessarily been a big leap between handicap company into Group Company at the sprinting division, and there's perhaps a bit of snobbery when people say, oh, this thing was second in a Group 2 compared to this thing having won a handicap, and naturally being drawn to the group race form as opposed to giving much weight to the handicap form. I don't know, but it's probably been the one division that actually you can step up from handicap company into Group Company.
Neil, can you click on a couple of these other markets? I'm very interested. There's some good stuff here. The reverse forecast, I just want to see just how short the Batash Art Power reverse forecast is. So that's 1 and 6 or 6 and 1. And that's odds against. I'm slightly surprised about that.
So
it's odds against that Batash and Art Power will fill the front two. Does that surprise you, Kills?
Not
Feel
massively.
free to say no.
Not massively.
Statement,
I mean, you know, Art Power is only a shade of odds on without Batash, because obviously Ayali's a reasonable alternative to Art Power. There's not much between them on what they've done. So no, it doesn't surprise me too much at all.
Okay.
What about the how far?
That's what I was going to come on to, Neil.
We?
Talk us through the how far Batash.
So 3 options. So you've got up to and including 2 1/4 lengths is 3.15. To win by 2.5 lengths or more is 2.66. Or Batash not to win is 3.
2 times. Very well calibrated, because it's almost each of 3. So, and we had a similar one yesterday with Love. I can't remember. Yeah. I think it might be 2 3/4 lengths. So if you took the over there,
what would you be thinking here then?
I'd be thinking up to and including 2 1/4. I don't know.
I mean,
I've just got
it's one of those. It is probably as tight as the market suggests it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'd been with you as well. I'd be up to and including, because I think you've got an improving horse who's going to be finishing strongly. It just depends on how far off them they are.
What's going on here with Batash? Because it looks like, well, it doesn't look like, my eyesight's not great, but I can see there's no jockey on his back and there's a jockey on everyone else. So I guess they're just delaying the loading, aren't they? They're just delaying the mounting, the legging up of Jim Crowley, who, let's remind you, is on a 4-timer. And if he goes in here, there will be a lot of punters in betting shops with some very, very pretty looking multiples and some lucrative cash out options. Okay, we've got just over 2 minutes to go to the start. On the fixed odds, it's 4 to 9 Batash, 11 to 4 Art Power, and 7 to 1 Al Ali. How are they betting on the Betfair Exchange, Neil?
Yeah, 1.5 Batash, so 2's on, so a bit more value than the fixed odds there on Batash. Art Power 4.8, Al Ali 13.5, and then Moskill starts off the rags at 50, all the way up to Curious at 220.
So I would imagine if you're an Ayali fan, you are more likely to be looking at each way. But if you were just having a win only, you're getting virtually double the price on the exchange than you are fixed odds. So, you know, it is always worth, and it's something we've touched upon on Wednesday, about the strategy of betting. You pick your selection, but you've then got the challenge of how to maximise the value out of that selection. And the best way of doing that is to keep your eyes open and look at as many prices and as many different options as you possibly can. Okay, so we are now seeing Jim Crowley nursing Batash down to the start. I mean, he's keeping the pin in the grenade, so to speak. Kills, is there anything there that you can see that's remotely perturbing? I notice his price is drifting a little bit, Neil.
Yeah, 1.57 now, so he's up to 4 to 7. Art Power 4.3.
Could you actually be worried that a horse is more relaxed than you think they should be? You know what I mean? Because otherwise,
not at all.
Otherwise, he's perfectly happy, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if that was a normal race at Lingfield and that horse went down to the start looking like that, I wouldn't even give it a second thought. So, I don't know. I think sometimes, Kills, you get this situation where people sometimes try and look away from the obvious, the form book and everything. They're desperate to see if there's a bead of sweat or, you know, whether or not he's misbehaving. But he looks fine,
when I was a school kid, I went racing with a mate of mine. We were about 14. We bunked off school to go. And we're sitting in the stands in Sandown, and there was a race going, and this horse went down at the start, and his 3 legs are up in the air, and the jockey's going like this. And we both turned around and go, that one's ready to run, isn't it? We both backed it. Absolutely tailed off. A lesson for you know, I got no idea.
Oh, you thought he was up for it?
Oh, he's up for it.
Oh, I see, yeah. Like champing at the bit, like a lion or something.
Yeah. I didn't realise it was, well, actually, he's going to be exhausted by the time he gets to the start, let alone coming back.
We were going so well on the responsible gambling, and then Keel started telling stories about betting at 14. Don't do it, kids. Okay, Batash has come in a little bit now, 1.53. Ayali on Betfair, 17. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, 17.
I've just had a little bit actually because it has become a backable price.
He is drifting in the place market as well. He was odds on to be placed, but he's drifting there now as well. But Batash a little bit weak at around 1.53, which is 8 to 15. So if you've seen 4 to 9 out there, fixed odds, you can get 8 to 15, which we started off talking about this and saying, is the market right or not? He's probably getting ever so slightly backable at some point, doesn't he?
Who's Batash?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, every horse has its price, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
All right. Well, at what price, if you saw Batash, at what price would you say, I've got to back him at that?
1.7, I wouldn't be able not to, I think.
I wonder if you'd get 1.7 in running. What would have to happen for him to be 1.7 in running?
You'd have to lose.
Would he? No, he wouldn't. I mean, he's only 1.54 now.
I mean, no, but he's going to be at or near the front tanking, like, you know what I mean? So
I'm just looking back now. So when he won at Goodwood, he was 1.32 and he hit 1.33, so nothing. When he won at Ascot, 1.85, he only hit 1.84. When he won this last year, 2.79, he hit 2.76. I guess his running style doesn't lend itself.
It doesn't lend itself to drifting, does it?
Okay.
That's the point.
It's not like a Stradivarius who is held up and comes off the bridle or anything.
Is there a tactical element to this, or do they both just let them go and see which one gets there quickest? I mean, what does Sylvester de Sousa do? Does he try and hang on to Art Power and produce him late, or does he try and get involved in an early pace duel? What's the tactic?
I think he produces him late. I don't think he's going to be quick enough early anyway. And he's the horse that finishes. He's the horse that's strong at the death.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. We're past post time. They're now currently trying to get them in. There's a cluster of handlers around Art Power. They've got him really almost sprinting into the stalls. He'll be coming out at a fair rate, and he went in at a fair rate.
Well, he won it for a little while, backing off, and then suddenly went, oh, right then.
Emirati Anna is in fine, so is Curious. Just waiting now for Moss Gill to go forward. No real moves in the market. I suppose Kaya Moro was 34 for a set and Moss Gill 32, Neil. So, you know, those...
They're a little bit shorter. They were 50s, weren't they, when we first started talking about this? You can't really say Batash is drifting because they're being backed, but they are the ones that are being, I guess, people taking a bit of a flyer out in the win market at huge prices for horses that we know act at the track.
Absolutely. Good luck with your bets, folks. And don't forget, as soon as they cross the line, stick some comments underneath the feed. Let us know what you think. Will you be eulogising about brilliant Batash, or will you be marvelling at the art of Art Power? We're about to find out. Batash has walked in, just guided in by one handler. Absolutely beautiful behaviour. We are almost ready to go. Let's light the blue touch paper. Off we go in the Nunthorpe Stakes. And Batash is away reasonably well. Is that Ornate cutting out the early running? It is, but Batash is now getting into full stride. Sylvester de Sousa has followed him at a respectable 2 lengths alongside Ayali. Coming down the near side, going really well, is Kaya Moro. In fact, Kaya Moro's leading, probably got a 2-length lead. Anything
Single
in the
figures,
market?
8 to 1 Kaya Moro.
Anything else to look at?
Batash 3's on.
Batash 3's on. Art Power's already off the bridle. He's really under it, and so's Ayali. So now, unfortunately, the Kaya Moro challenge has petered out, and here comes Batash. He's taken it up. Art Power, unfortunately, is running an absolute stinker at the moment. Ayali is still struggling. Batash is struggling to master Kaya Moro. Kaya Moro is really sticking on well. We're going to have a shot here. Batash, no, I think he's got her in the end, but Kaya Moro has run an absolute stormer. Batash just about gets the job done. It's functional rather than flashy. Batash wins his second successive Nunthorpe. What a great run from Kaya Moro.
She was good, wasn't she? She really did stick her head out, didn't she?
Yeah, 2.06 in running, so just a tad bigger than even money. Batash went out to even money. So we would have...
Everything has its price.
So you would have got 1.7.
Yeah, I mean, if you were looking for this to be one of those absolutely explosive, smoking displays by Batash, it didn't happen. But I tell you what, if you take Kaya Moro out of the race, he's actually won it, you know, a long, long way. I mean, the duel with Art Power never materialised. That ran an absolute stinker. Ayali, unfortunately, never got into it either. So there'll be another big price horse make the frame, I'm pretty sure. But
which was our Moss Gill, who we backed 4 to be placed, finished 3rd.
So I think someone backed Kaya Moro, didn't they? Let's have a look. What have we got? Daniel Mann, come on, Kayamura. You did say beforehand, Daniel. Daniel, you were almost the man, but hopefully, I think you did say you got a place as well. So well done, you. Excellent betting. And Mossgill finished third. Ayali just about stayed on to finish fourth. He's run well there. Curios. Big Dan's fancy over in the gallery. Art Power, a monumental disappointment. I'm never going well. The whip was being raised.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I
before
mean,
the
it's
halfway
just,
stage.
it's just going in against proper 5 furlong sprinters on a fast track. And, well, he was on the back foot from the off, really, wasn't he? He was never going that well.
And where was the action again, Kills?
Well, again, action, I mean, this run by Kayamura almost guarantees you that they will come over the stand side for the rest of the meeting, I think, because that's where she was all the way. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were others behind her who raced on that side who didn't really show, but Mossgill ended up finishing third. And Jim Crowley, I think he actually brought Batash overall to eyeball her this time to actually say, look, you've got another horse to race against. And when he did pull out some more, didn't he?
Are you slightly surprised, Kills, that Batash only got to evens? Or did you think he was always probably just about in control?
I thought he was going to get beat at one point, I must admit. I mean, I wouldn't have gone massively more than evens, but I did think he was in trouble, yeah.
How short was Kayamura?
2.06.
Not even odds on. That's
I guess
incredible.
his reputation sort of... people just believed in him, I guess, didn't
Yeah,
they? So-
against that, though, we talked about it beforehand, that, a Batash win is get out there, put the burners on from the word go and just put them to the sword by halfway. It wasn't like that at all, was it?
No. And we flagged up the fact that this race can throw up big price winners of this. Well, the second and third were pretty big prices there as well. So it's definitely a race that if you do fancy one at a price, you shouldn't be put off by a price anyway. But this is definitely a race where you can fancy one.
Absolutely, Kay Amoro. She races with her head very high, doesn't she? But that doesn't, that doesn't suggest any kind of lack of genuineness. She battled on really well, and I'm sure Connections will be thrilled with that, Kills. I mean, what a lovely one to own there. If she's producing performances like that, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really good performance.
Let's get another social comment. What have we got? Darg Barnett, not sure that this was Batash's best, but good enough. I can't see another target this season. The ground in the Abbey will be against him. Well, Doug, we don't know that for sure. I mean, we might have a very dry autumn.
It's good as often as it is soft there, isn't it?
Is it? Okay, fair enough.
It's good as often as it is soft. So I don't know.
Would he not go across to America?
I think they should have a bash at it.
Where is it this year? Keeneland?
Keeneland. There might be soft ground there in the...
6 furlongs, isn't it?
Is it?
I think it's 5.5 at Keeneland.
It might be soft.
I think it's 5.5 at Keeneland turf sprint, but I mean it's still. It still is a bit further than he arguably wants to go.
I'm pretty sure Charlie Hills did mention the possibility of the breeders. I don't know. I mean, the thing with this horse, don't forget, he's a gelding, so there's no stud value to protect. You can just keep running him. So I'm sure he will have another run. I mean, the Ascot Sprint 6, isn't it, on Champions Day? That's no good to him, is it?
You sort of have your programme mapped out for a 5 furlong. I know we said about the ground in the Abbey, but the Abbey Breeders' Cup are the two, would traditionally be the two sort of obvious stepping. Well, I mean, where does he normally run after this? It's just straight to
Longchamp, isn't it?
Because he doesn't go to, what, have you got the Flying 5 at the Curragh for Irish Champions weekend?
Yes, I suppose that might be something.
That is a possible.
I mean, I guess, and don't forget, if this, and there won't be any crowds, I'm pretty sure, they might decide that trip wouldn't be too arduous for him.
If you look at Keeneland and you're saying, Paul, that it's 5.5 or 6, and they don't fancy that this year, because also in the autumn or in the winter out there, you're probably going to you're more likely to get soft ground at Keeneland than you are quick ground, because it's not like it's at a Santa Anita or a Del Mar or somewhere like that. So they could keep that up their sleeve for next year, and this year they go Curragh or Leopardstown, it's Curragh, isn't it? And then on to the Arc again, or the Arc weekend, rather. 1
length was the winning distance, so if you took advantage of that really interesting Betfair market, how far, and you did what we tentatively suggested, I'm not going to spray that up as a great one, then you were a winner. 57.38, almost bang on standard. So, I think they were looking at something like 55, weren't they?
55.9 is his course record, so I mean, it's almost a second and a half outside of that. No great surprise, it's slower ground.
I backed Kay Amoro 4 places, and do you know what? Normally I should be crossing myself,
Were
but
you
I'm
going-
fine with that.
Yeah, but were you going, don't win?
No, I wasn't
You
actually.
weren't?
No, I honestly wasn't
right,
because,
right,
to be honest, I wanted Batash to win. I like Batash. I wanted Batash to win for the story, but also Morrow. There was a brilliant shout by Keith yesterday
It
on the
was,
show.
yeah,
he
great
he
shout,
said,
yeah.
"Look, I'm not going to mess around with places. You know, I'm just going to back her each way first three." So hopefully, Keith. And he was in fantastic form yesterday. He was winner after winner. So hopefully Keith's kept his good run up. Well played.
stuff.
I'm sure we will be
stuff.
seeing the very shrewd Scot Keith Melrose on What a Shout again in the future. That was really, really interesting, wasn't it? Racing Post Live. That was a really interesting race. Batash, he's 6 now. Does he stay? Do we see him again next year?
Well, he's a gelding, isn't he? We'll see him when he's 10, won't we? I mean, they'll probably retire him earlier than some of these horses do get retired, simply because of the owner, and they won't let him run down the handicap and off marks of 60 and 70 as they get older, like the Tatlin did. But point being, he is...
The Tatlin. Imagine he was still
Well,
running
the
at Brighton
Tatlin.
at
Yeah, he was still
13.
running, but what was wrong with it? He enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But because he's got a big ownership, they will probably ship him away and give him a nice retirement early. But I can't see any reason why he can't come back, given...
we want another year, don't we?
Given how good he is.
Just a couple of prices here for you from earlier. So Minzal, who we saw won the Gym Crack, 33's first show for the Guineas, but 14 for the Commonwealth Cup. I mean, it's a long way away, but they're your first prices there.
What do you make of those kills? Do you think that he's more of a sprint type?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, Memas was very, very fast, so I'd say he was a Commonwealth Cup horse rather than the Guineas horse. They might try. They tend to try and push him out to a mile. I think the last winner of the Gym Crack was Rocker Gibraltar going on with the Guineas. So it doesn't happen very often. They're speed horses. It's a speed track.
Whereas Muhara won the Gym Crack, same owner and everything, and went on to the Commonwealth Cup. But I think did they not try him over? Well, they ran him in like the...
they ran him in Greenham.
Yeah, at
Did he
Newbury.
win Did he
Something
win
like that. See whether he
Did he
promises
win the
to stay
Greenham?
or not.
Did he
and
win the
then-
Greenham?
He was another one who was he was packed off to stud a bit too early, wasn't he?
Well,
He looked incredible,
Champion
didn't
sprint.
he?
He won all the big sprints, didn't he, in his
Yeah.
3-year-old
He was
career.
really, really good. Let me tell you. Let me ask you this, chaps. We've had nearly 3 months of 2-year-old action. August is about to become September. Who's your idea of the 2,000 Guineas winner at this stage?
crikey.
Tricky, isn't it?
I genuinely say I have no idea. I mean, I think battleground, hedge your list, but no, I have no idea. It's a fair chance we haven't even seen it yet.
I was just, so Battleground's favourite on the exchange trip. Master of the Seas. Oh, that was the Godolphin horse, wasn't it, that won the Superlative Stakes?
Yeah.
July
And what
Stakes?
about that
that's
nice
very
horse
good.
called Supremacy?
Yeah.
well, that's
what
another
is
speed
that?
horse.
Is he? He's not going to get
Yeah,
him
I
Or
think
on.
Commonwealth
that's another
Cup,
speed horse.
maybe. He's 34s for the Guineas at the
I
minute,
think
just on the
I think
exchange.
that's another speed horse.
All right. How would you bet? Have we seen the Guineas winner yet?
RB4 to 8 to 11. No.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I might
Right,
back
one
the other
more
side
race.
of that. Yeah.
One more race on what's been another fascinating afternoon on Racing Post Live. And the angle here, of course, is how short is the Sheikh Hamdan runner?
Torlead, 3.85, but so he's second favourite behind Naval Crown at 2.64, Dingle then 9.4, Rushmore 9.8, and Brumilor at 10, and then 46 all bigger the rest. So, not a lot to go on here, really.
Does that suggest to you then that in actual fact, while I've been sitting here spraying up this Jim Crowley Lucky 63 or whatever it is, like a Wally, that no one's actually done it?
No, it's one of those. If it's Frankie Dettori, loads of people have done it. There might be one or two have done this, but those liabilities...
It's not going to be one or two, is it? It's going to be more than that.
There's
but-
going to be a handful. It'll be swallowed up. It is not the biggest... they're not the biggest prize winners in the world, so you're not talking about monster liabilities. When Frankie did it with the Magnificent Seven, I mean, they were prices, weren't they? You know what I mean? And it makes a hell of a lot of difference. You're not going to get anywhere near as many people, as good as Jim Crowley is, then the number of people likely to do a Crowley multiple is probably.
But it's the fact it's in the same
5%
colours,
off.
Kills.
Yeah, absolutely. But even so, people don't associate colours with how they associate Frankie Dettori. You'd be lucky to get 5% of many people doing that sort of acca as you would Frankie. It doesn't mean they won't have liabilities built up, but they won't matter to anywhere near the extent that they do on the
There's
tour.
probably been some little like the Ebnahar and Batash double would probably have been popular in its own right, forgetting that it's forgetting the Silks and the Jockey just based on their position in the market. That would have probably been a popular double.
Yeah, I mean, I just to flog this particular horse, he's got tour lead in the 3:45, and his final ride is Asiaf in the 4:15. They're all for Sheikh Hamdan, so it will be interesting to see how they get on. Notwithstanding the fact that Crowley is on fire with 4 winners so far. Kills, where do you think the value lies in terms of this race?
Well, again, I think it's really, really hard because you've got a maiden and they haven't run very much. Torlead did, Torlead's trained by John Gosden, did show plenty. First time, finished second to a horse that had a run and was a hot favourite as well of Marcus Dragoni's called Alcumated Goodwood. So, he's got solid claims. I think Naval Crown obviously has more solid claims on what he's done because he's run twice. He finished third in a listed race last time to Chindit, and he was third on his debut on soft ground. So he's got ground form. But Torley has the potential to improve beyond him, and so does everything else in the race.
Okay. It is the British Stallion Studs EBF Convivial Maiden. It always used to be called the Moore Style Convivial back in the day when I first started watching racing. And it's a race that historically has thrown up some decent horses. Actually, last year's winner was Montaham, and we saw run really, really well in that handicap yesterday. Neil, how are we doing for charity? It's been a bit of a struggle today, hasn't it?
Yeah, had a winner in the last race,
Yeah.
Mosgiel, who was the 4 places, but that's the only one so far today. But at least we've had a winner, so at least that's something.
Well, let's try and have 2 winners. Where are we going to go in your quest for a profit?
Yeah, tricky one, this, for all of the reasons that Paul has outlined. I was actually quite happy to take on Naval Crown here. He has got the best form in the race. Interestingly, though, in both of those runs, so far, he's been beaten in running at even money and at 1.8. So he's been turned over twice in running at relatively short prices. So we will look to take that same angle again. So we're going to look to lay him. He's currently 2.7 to lay, which is 7 to 4. But we're going to change the price. We'll take it down to even money. And we'll look to lay him for £50 at even money. That bet is going to be unmatched, but we're going to keep it. And so what we're doing there is basically placing an in-play bet, but doing it pre-play. So we'll look to get him beat at a shortish price in running because he's got previous of doing that in a race that, as we've already said, is probably one to tread a little bit carefully because there's an awful lot of unknowns.
So basically, if we do get done, we're risking 50 to win 50.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's just showcasing the fact that on something like this where a horse has got previous history of trading short and not winning, that just gives us an extra angle to go at in a race where there's lots of question marks. We know what this one's run style is like, and so he is susceptible to travelling well and not quite finding as much.
And Kills, I mean, if you're an experienced in-play Betfair punter, you'll know all these things, won't you? You'll go into a race armed with the fact that, and you get some spectacular cases, don't you, of horses that traditionally come cruising into the race, look like they're going to hack up, touch a really short price and then blow out. So
you get loads. I mean, over jumps, the famous one would be Blackstare Mountain, wouldn't it? Of Willie Mullins, who I think got done at 101 3 times in his career and got beat, which is exceptional by any measure. So yeah, there are certain horses you think, well, we know this doesn't find anything, and back, even if you sometimes they win. Even if you back them accordingly, you'd put a hedge in, or you might just want to lay them and running when they get short.
on the flip side, Kills, I always think that a horse that's worth their weight in gold in terms of in-running betting is a horse that comes off the bridle but keeps travelling. There was a 2-mile hurdler, I think, trained by maybe Oliver Sherwood, I can't think of its name, but he used to come off the bridle really and just keep going, and they're the ones, aren't they? Because the in-running punters, as soon as the jockey starts waggling his arms and getting busy with the whip, their price goes through the roof.
I think, like everything else, in-running punters have evolved, and they're a lot shrewder than they used to be.
But it only takes one person who hasn't tumbled. That's what the horse normally does.
But you end up with horses that aren't are going to come off the bridle. They end up being shorter than they should be for longer than they should be nowadays. And I think that one of the famous cases for me was when Don Poley ran in the Gold Cup, and he was miles behind 3 out, and he had no chance whatsoever, and he was still trading at about 6 in running because everyone expected him just to fly up the hill like he'd done before, like, you know what I mean? But you know, things like that. There are certain horses that, you know, they you know, those that find plenty, there are times when they trade too short for too long.
Yeah, I think if you want to be an in-running racing puncher on Betfair, it's a really fun, interesting, new dimension. I mean, it's something that when we were growing up punting, you'd never dream of having something as exciting as that. But, you know, you do have to tread carefully, but that's not to say you have to have a kind of degree in horse racing to be able to make money out of it. Don't forget that our friends down at My Racing, they're keen on Broomy Law today. That's 12.5. Tour lead then, Kills. Jim Crowley going for 5 on the afternoon. Can he win?
I mean, he can obviously win. He can improve. But I was just, you know, while we were talking then, I was watching Broomy Law's the replay again of a Haydock run, and he was very green, very keen, and did stay on quite nicely. I mean, I was a bit, you know, I was a bit negative about their earlier tip in the previous race, but I think Broomy Law probably, you know, if I was going to have a bet, you're talking each way at around about 10s. That doesn't, you know, it's 12.5 on Betfair and 11 in the each way market. What do they show for a place? 2.84. So, you know, I'd be tempted to back them each way, Broomy Law.
This isn't a tip that you put in the paper, is it? When you looked at this and you saw this was on TV, did you think, I'm going to try and...
Well, it's
dig
one of those,
out?
isn't it? I mean, it's probably now the only maiden that is on TV. I mean, the Brocklesby is normally the start of the Doncaster meeting now and doesn't fall within the TV schedule. But, you know, obviously it's a famous maiden. It generally, you know, every year it's normally worth 70 grand, which is massive for a maiden. It's a lot lower this year. I think it's 30. But come on, maidens don't really have a place on TV, do they?
Well, I think variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, but when you've got a chance of a nice, you know, I mean...
That last race, actually, Neil, you were saying you'd quite like to have seen the 450 televised.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, really.
Exactly.
Well, like the next 2 races, which aren't on ITV, are 2 really competitive handicaps. The final race today, particularly so, with a lot of favourites that we would have already seen this season. We speak about the form lines working out, all of this sort of stuff. It just strikes me as perfect TV race cannon fodder, really.
I want to see how Visinari got on.
Yeah, well, that as well, yeah. But yeah, it's the sort of race that would be, or even like, there's 9 races on TV tomorrow. You've got the Melrose, that's a big handicap. Is there a case for saying you could move a race like that to the Friday card to bolster that? You know, there's things that you could do there. You know, we've already got the Ebor, which is a mile 6 handicap, the big handicap tomorrow. So the Melrose is a good race in its own right. Is there a case? You know, it's just ideas
I
thrown
guess,
around,
Neil, what
it?
they probably would have done there is planned that on the basis that there would be crowds there. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it does make a good shout. And don't forget, if you're going to join us for Racing Post Live tomorrow, which we hope you will, there are, as Neil says, 9 races to go through. So Neil and I will be joined by Charlie Post for that. So hopefully you can join us for day 4 of the Ebor Festival on Racing Post Live tomorrow. I've gone with a very tentative prod at Naval Crown. I couldn't be less enthusiastic, so I'm not even going to bore you with the reasons. But it just feels like it's got the best rating, it's got the best form, and I'm not absolutely certain that anything's going to come past it. I can't say that I've been through the pedigrees of the unraced horses with any great forensic analysis. Have you, Kills? Have you had a little look at and just seen if there's anything in the pedigrees of the horses that haven't run that might make them interesting?
Let me see.
Just one interestingly on.
I'm just checking the pedigrees. That
you're right there, Kills.
Yes,
I'm a bit worried about you.
Yeah, no, I've just got a bit of an
Take your hand
itch,
off your microphone, man.
Oh, sorry, man.
That's all right.
I got a bit of an itch. Sorry.
Okay.
Just interestingly on Broomy Law, she's by Hooray, who won the Lowther here, which would have been yesterday. So there's a bit of a York angle in there in that regard. Encounter Order, half brother to some hurdle winners, so it's probably a case of...
we ran a fairly decent file called Leader Writer.
Encounter Order's the sort of horse that you can imagine in 3 or 4 years' time we're still here backing in 1.5 mile handicaps.
I suppose the other thing, of course, to talk about is the draw, isn't it, now? Because it actually does become a bit relevant now that whether it's because the jockeys are right to do it or they want to do it, we've seen Jim Crowley, who's probably done his homework today and walked the course fairly thoroughly. he's clearly believing that the action or the best ground is on the
Well, yeah,
stand
exactly.
side.
This is what I say.
He's
They
come
will.
down there. They'll follow
And
it.
he's
They'll
drawn
follow.
10.
And he's drawn 10.
They
Which
will
is
follow.
perfect.
They will follow.
And 10,
I don't
obviously,
think-
in
I
case
don't
you're not
think
sure.
there's any doubt.
They changed it a couple of years ago just to standardise it. Stall 1 is always on the inside of the track. So stall 1 is on, as you're looking at it, the far side. Stall 10 is on the near side. Tour lead is in stall 10 and the favourite is in stall 1. So that could
They're
be
at opposite
interesting.
sides, yeah.
Might just be a bit of a challenge there. Yeah, I mean, if the bookmakers are desperately trying to hedge in order to prevent this Jim Crowley multiple that I think I'm the only person who thinks might be a factor, it's not really getting into the market. He's steady at 3.9, isn't he? And the favourite's pretty solid, Neil. Let's have a market update.
Yeah, well, Toledo last night was 4.4, so he's into 3.9. So there has been a little bit of money for him. Naval Crown has been supported as well. He's 2.52. It's pretty much a two-horse race at the top of the market. Dingle and Rushmore, both 9.4. Rushmore's run before. He ran at Newbury. He was actually sent off favourite that day, I think, at Newbury, and he just ran. Well, it looked like it was his first run. He ran quite green and sort of hung into the pack and all of this sort of stuff. But he was sent off favourite that day, I think. So he's obviously bred to be good and all that as well. Big owners and whatnot. So,
yeah, Crossfire Underground. They are. I mean, the boarding horses are renowned for improving a lot from run to run. Don't get a million, first time out winners. So another one. But with that respect, Naval Crown RPR. What's he got? He's got an RPR of 92, and what did Rushmore must have run to something like 60.
He's got a fair bit of improving to do.
So we're talking an awful lot of improving to do. Obviously, the winner of that race at Newbury is pretty good, isn't it? Guru, really well regarded.
The horse that he beat that day closely is the one who's the non-runner in here, Maximal.
I'll tell you what, there is something else that I've just been reminded about, that if Crowley does win the next two races, it's 2,000 winners on the flat, and I think he also got 2,000 over jumps as well. So that, jumps and flats, so that would be a mighty achievement, and good luck to him. It's another dismal afternoon. This is a shocker of a weather forecast, Kills. We didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I mean,
did we?
it's one of those things where it's so windy that it might make it look miles worse than it is when it's raining. You saw it when the rain started flashing into the camera, it just covers the whole camera. You think, oh my God, it's terrible. But when you actually look across the track, even though we know it's raining, there's loads of people out there. Nobody's, they're not wearing hats or trying to cover themselves up. But you know what I mean. So it might not be that bad at all.
And you've done your tips already for tomorrow in the Racing Post on racingpost.com. What ground are you basing that on? Are you expecting rain overnight?
No, not according to the forecast. I just didn't think it'd be good ground. I think there's no excuses ground. You can't say, I think I did call it drying ground, which I might have to change. But I mean, it's supposed to dry a bit tomorrow. So no, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be saying it's soft or fast. It's just like, if you can't be winning on that, you shouldn't be at the races.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
And just looking ahead to tomorrow, is it one of those days where you're monumentally excited? Have you put plenty of tips up?
Yeah,
or have you
I
taken
have.
it steady?
I mean, far more than today. I haven't done very well today, to be fair, so I'm hoping I'll do a lot better tomorrow. I fancy quite a few, yeah.
Excellent. Well, I've just heard that if Jim Crowley does win this race, we're going to stay on air for the 4:15. That's a bonus, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, every reason to shout him on now. Thanks, chaps.
And you get precisely...
Are we allowed to start drinking in the studio then? Is that all right?
You don't want to have a drink tonight, do you, Kills? Big day tomorrow. You work
Friday
on
night,
Sunday?
mate. Friday night, mate. Come on.
Okay. No, to be fair, Kills was impeccably behaved during lockdown. You went about 6 weeks without alcohol, didn't you?
5.
5. It's not a bad effort, that. Believe me, honestly, Neil, if you knew
Commendable.
Kills, you know that was good. Who's that in the old red hood? That is Red Right Sand is wearing the red hood. And that's a fairly new thing, chaps, isn't it? That basically that's a sort of calming device for the preliminaries. And it's red so that the stalls handlers and everyone else knows down at the start it will be whipped off. Naval Crown on the fixed odds 5-4, 2-1 Tour lead. And that's reflected as well on the Betfair Exchange, where Naval Crown has got really short now.
Yeah, very, very strongly supported in these last few minutes. So he's gone from around like 2.4, whatever he was, into 2.26. So that's around 6-5 in fractional terms. So yeah, plenty of support for the Godolphin runner.
Yeah, in a very similar way, there was plenty of support for the Godolphin runner on Wednesday. Cloudbridge, remember?
Yeah.
Backed it as though defeat was out of the question, came out, pulled like a train and was tailed off.
Yeah, victory was out of the question within no time, wasn't
exactly,
it?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people think he's pretty good. He has got the best form. He probably does deserve to be that short on pure form, but...
What did you make of Dingle Kills? It's got 6 by its name. I mean, and it's holding fairly firm, around about third, fourth favourite. Would that surprise you if that prevailed?
It was all right. I mean, it was pretty soft ground at Newmarket last time. It was only 6 of 9, faded. Might well have needed a run. Might well have needed the experience. But I think there's ones with stronger.
It's the same race as Naval Crown running, was it? I think the same race Naval Crown running on its debut. The 5th came out and won since as well.
And we did see earlier on in the gym crack, didn't we, that form can obviously be reversed fairly spectacularly.
Yeah, they're maturing at different rates, and
and
you don't know
also
how
they've
much
had
work they've done
interrupted
and
preparations,
stuff as well,
haven't they? They've all had a fairly, it hasn't been an orthodox preparation for the 2-year-olds this year. And I think the trainers are probably learning as much as anyone just what they need to do to maximise the potential of their 2-year-olds. Naval Crown are hardening to 6-5 on the show and 2.26 on the exchange. Interesting, that 6 furlong start. I'm not sure if Batash would like that, because that big busy road that you drive down, if you're going to your back, it goes right by it, doesn't it?
Is it that close? I've never actually been up there.
Yes, it is. It is. It's almost as close as the road behind the 5 furlong start at Longchamp. Right, and once I was going to the Arc, and my taxi driver, as often happens, got hopelessly lost. And basically, the nearest I got to seeing the Abbey, which was traditionally the first race on the card, is he was trying to find his way to the course, and we drove past. We drove down the road past the stalls, and I saw the runners being loaded. I didn't get to the course for about another 20 minutes, so that was disappointing. But to be fair, have you been to Longchamp on Arc Day?
No.
You know what it's like, because you can't see a thing anyway, can you?
Well, yeah.
It's the most... Yeah. If you've ever been to Sandown and you've seen their 5 furlong course, and you think, well, that's a bit wacky. It's got nothing on Longchamp. You can't see the start.
It's actually almost got nothing to do with the racetrack, has it?
Exactly. It may as well be taking place in, goodness knows, Madrid. And basically, during the race as well, they'll change camera angles a million times. You just haven't got a clue what's going on. Anyway, here we are. Let's see what's going on in the 3:45. It's the Convivial Maiden. They are off and running. They've all congregated down the near side, and cutting out the early running is the favourite Naval Crown, along with Red Right Sand. Any market reaction to what we've seen so far, Neil?
Yeah, Naval Crown much really strong into even money, but we haven't
been matched.
No, not yet. Yes, just been matched now. So he's already hit even money, and that's him in the lead there, isn't he? So he's got the perfect position.
Tour lead out to 4-1. So it's 7 furlongs this trip, isn't it? Of course, they've got to go around the bend.
Look, see where they're coming.
Yeah, they're all coming down the near side. And
side.
Unfortunately, Crowley is going to have to pass a few. He might find he's got a bit of traffic problems there. But meanwhile, it's the Godolphin Silks of Naval Crown making the best of their way home from Red Right Sand.
Steaming through.
Torlee's just made an incredible move there. There's going to be no traffic problems here. It's just going to be a question whether he's good enough or not. And he's lolloping along without a care in the world as they kiss the 2 furlong pole goodbye. Yeah. But Naval Crown is battling on. It's the big 2 in the market. Look like they're going to slug it out. And it looks at this stage like Naval Crown is going to get the better of them. In fact, I'd be amazed if he doesn't. Yeah. He's gone 2, 3, 4 lengths clear as he goes to the final furlong. It's Naval Crown making this look very easy, and it's very impressive indeed.
He is very impressive.
Tour lead is going to get second. It's going to be 3rd place for Dingle. He might even get second. No, he doesn't. So that was a really easy 6-length romp by Naval Crown. No dangers whatsoever. The Jim Crowley run comes to an end. Tour lead gets second. Dingle gets 3rd. The market knew. The market got it right. What was the story from the race as far as the in-running betting went, Neil?
Yeah, Tour lead hit 1.53, so pretty much 2-1 on, which you can sort of understand, I guess, to a degree, because he was still travelling really strongly on the bridle. At that same point, actually, we got matched on Naval Crown at 2. When Tour lead hit 1.53. The Naval Crown, we had the opportunity to cash out there and green up, which I didn't do. I just let it run. But he went out to, I sort of missed it, but he went out to bigger than 2-1 anyway when Torlead hit the price he did. But it was in effect a 2-horse race in that regard. But Torlead 2-1 on and beat. But pretty good from the runner, from the winner. Third time
good,
lucky.
wasn't it? Were you impressed, Kills?
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, you could argue, well, actually, that's what he was entitled to do, but all the others were entitled to improve as well, and there's a fair chance that some of them have a little bit, and so has he. So, yeah, he looked a nice horse there.
It's a little favourites fight back today, by the way, isn't it? I think we've had 3 on the spin now after a pretty barren time for the market leaders early on. I thought it was really interesting that Crowley really did turn on the burners between 4 out and 3 out to get on the heels of the leader, and that was the point at which obviously went extremely short. But Buick really held his nerve, didn't he? And Naval Crown kept galloping on nicely.
He was always leading, wasn't he? Even though Torlead was travelling well, he never got. Well, he didn't appear to ever get ahead of him. Bit of a no-nonsense ride there from Buick on the favourite.
That's what you like, though, isn't it? The stupidest expression is in racing is done it the hard way when they make it. It's the easy. Well, it's not the easy way, but it's the easiest way, isn't it? You've got less ground to cover between you and the post, as long as you don't go nuts early on. Don't you agree, Kilter?
Yeah, well, you get to set your own pace and you get a head start. I mean, what is, that's why most, not to say most, but I mean, when you talk about track position, there are more winners from the front than there are. From second, third, fourth, fifth or sixth. If you broke them down individually, it'd be easily the best.
Well, it has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what does my head in over jumps. When they all set off, obviously it's not a stall start, and they set off and it may be a small runner field. And a fancied runner, the jockey just automatically gives up 5-6 lengths. It's crazy. Absolute madness. And to be fair, McCoy, one of the things that made him the best was that he never ever did that. He said, look, even if I've got a horse that I think needs to be, dropped out, I'll jump off with them and then I'll drop them out. I'm not going to give them 5 lengths just like that at the start because I've got to make that up.
Yeah, you jump off with them and then find your position rather than actually, well, I've got to sit here now because everything's in front of me. And that's why I like, when you see lots of horses, I tend to back, especially in your big field races, I tend to back horses that are held up, and I hate it when, some, they seem to just must be held out last according to connections, and that's it. That is your default position for the start of every race, which I think is bonkers. You can hold a horse up in 4th or 5th. All you need is that bit of cover, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's just, why do it?
Maybe they just don't want to incur the wrath of the trainer when they get back, and they've got to be seen to be really holding the horse up. Do you ever think, right, when you see some of these small field jump races, and the starts are so raggedy, do you ever think there is a case for stalls for jumps races, or do you think it's the most ridiculous idea ever?
Well, I'd like to see him get 40 stalls in for the Grand National.
Yeah, obviously.
However wide that is. But the point is, I mean, they're much bigger horses to start with, so you'd have to...
Of course they're not.
They are.
They mean much bigger. They can't be much bigger, can they?
Considerably bigger.
That's ridiculous.
7 and 8-year-olds, they are much bigger horses.
No, they're not. What do you mean much more? Wider, taller?
Both. Well, wider for sure, yeah. Have a look. They're babies. They're, 2-year-old, 3-year-olds are half a racing. These are big horses.
A horse is a horse.
It's not.
And also, the one thing I think they'd load more easily because they're calmer, they're more battle hardy. They know what they're doing.
Geldings as well, aren't they?
It probably works okay. We're getting away from ourselves. This is summer. We don't need to worry too much about it. But I do just dislike raggedy starts. Anyway, that was a good performance by Naval Crown. It'll be interesting to see what that goes on to achieve. Charlie Appleby will be delighted with that. Okay, let's get a social comment. Make a Stand 5. Damn, wanted RP Live to stay live. Haha, so did we. We're having so much fun. We wanted to stay on, but unfortunately, it didn't happen because Torlead has got done. So before we come off air, we'll have a little look ahead to tomorrow. Neil, I don't want to know your Ebor fancies because you're on duty tomorrow with myself and Charlie Post, so we will find out what's going on there. Keels, let's have a sneak preview of what you are going to be saying in your Ebor preview tomorrow. First of all, what type of horse do you think will fit the bill when it comes to the big handicap?
I'm not sure there's an absolute perfect profile for a race where they're all top-class handicappers, aren't they? I don't even think you have to necessarily be in massive form. I think we've got Fujo with Prince, who's the favourite, having bolted up at Ascot last time, but he's gone up a fair bit. I just look at horses that I think A, are reasonably handicapped, B, that will suit, a strong run race. They've got to get a trip. I've always liked horses that travel well when running at York, not in this particular race, but just when running at York. So the two I've come down on, am I allowed to tip them on here? I suppose
You
it's
are.
all right, isn't
You
it?
are.
Yeah. Two I've come down on the side of are All Right Sunshine, who's trained by Keith Dalgley. He's just coming back into form. He actually travelled brilliantly at Ascot last time, but he got hampered and stopped in his run a million times. He was beaten 8 lengths by Fujiera Prince, but I think he's about £10 better off. And he's just miles better than that. So again, long straight at York, travel well, pick your way through. I think he'll go well. And the old jumps mare, ever popular Verdana Blue, who I just think, again, another, she stayed 2 mile 4 better than I thought she would do when she ran in the Ascot Stakes last time. Got beat a length by Coeur de Lion, having taken it up a couple of furlongs out. But I do think coming back in trip in a really strong run race with a flat left-handed track with a long straight is absolutely perfect for her. And Ryan Moore can pick his way through. We do now have, you're talking about, getting trouble in running and whatever, there now is more potential for that because they're all going to come over. And they did last year. If you remember, we were on Barsanti, who got a terrible run through. He got into the frame, but I think he could have won it without. So there might be the odd hard luck story if they all come over, which I think they will do. But I do like horses that travel, and those would be the two for me.
Okay, I think Fujiera Prince is 7.8 at the moment, Neil. The market just beginning to take shape. But by the time we reconvene tomorrow, there will be all sorts of liquidity in there. There's bound to be loads of action. Really, really looking forward to the Ebor, the highlight of day 4 of the York Ebor Festival. Racing Post Live will be back on duty then. We hope you can join us. And if you stayed on till the end of the show today, a little bonus. That was hot off the press. Paul Kealy's Tote Ebor tips. You got them even before the racingpost.com users and, of course, the Racing Post newspaper buyers. Keels, it wouldn't be your most successful betting day of all time, but it was another intriguing day, wasn't it? What's your one big takeout from today?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I did say I didn't think that it was the most punter-friendly day's racing there was, and it certainly wasn't particularly friendly to me on a punting basis. But it was still interesting racing, as it was. I think Minzal was the star of the day. I think that looked very good. He might be a decent 2-year-old. He's going to be a sprinter more than a miler, I think. Although you won't blame them if they try and go up and trip. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting race. Naval Crown is obviously learning. That was his 3rd run. It may well have been a career best by a fair way, even though it was still a maiden. But yeah, Minzal star of the day. Looking forward to tomorrow now.
Absolutely. And Neil, how was it for you, my friend?
Well, personally, not. We had a winner. Bit not annoyed, bit disappointed in Naval Crown because we laid him in running, it got matched, and then he went out to a big price in running. So
will Barry give you a call tonight? So
probably,
all that money I accrued for the Injured Jockeys Fund.
Yeah, I'll be answerable to Barry later. I can see the phone ringing now.
He didn't do great on Wednesday, did he?
No, but he was mustard yesterday. Don't worry about that.
So, but
yeah, we're back tomorrow.
Yeah.
With a chance, we've got 9 races to get through, haven't we? So
no excuse, right?
Plenty of chances. So study hard tonight, Neil. Mm-hmm. We'll see you tomorrow. Charlie Post will be where Paul Kealy is. I will hopefully be here, God willing, and you will hopefully be there for day 4 of Racing Post Live. Don't forget to give yourself the best chance of backing the winners. Download the free, fantastic Racing Post app, and most importantly, bet safely. Day 3 was all about Batash. He wasn't a bat out of hell. He was battling Batash, but he got the job done.